A very good evening to you. Welcome to the West Ham Voice on Monday evening. I hope you all had a good weekend. Probably not, given the result that we had against Liverpool on Sunday. Yet another defeat. Well, another defeat, another annihilation from dear old Liverpool. They love playing against West Ham, don't they? We'll talk about that later on in the show. And I'll do a bit of a roundup. There's only really the loan players that I need to sort of talk about today, and then I'll sort of get on to the detail of the game and what happens with Lopetegui and what happens with the transfers, because it's all tied into one. But first of all, I've got to give a shout out and an apology really to Ange, who said hello to me on the Bobby Moore lower on the stairs near the end of the game. And he kind of said, "Oh, please do me a favor. Don't, I look forward to hearing your show, etc. Please don't go all negative." And guess what I did? The minute the game ended, for those of you who heard it, who listened to it, I had a right old rant after the game. Emotions got the better of me, and I was effing and blinding. So my apologies for that, to be honest. My apologies to you, Ange, who said, "Please don't." And I went off and did it. But my apologies to anyone that, I normally don't swear. Certainly not in the shows that I do. So, it got the better of me. Not so much because we lost, but more because of the manner of the defeat. So we'll talk about that later on. But before I do all that, I can see there's about 100 odd messages in the chat. So let's go in and say a quick hello to everybody as well. Good evening to you, Foxes. Good evening to you, Usual. I hope you're all well. Foxes, with Moyes, the fan base was divided, but with Lopetegui, I think everyone wants rid. I think that's possibly quite correct. Foxes, again, it's taken ages to try and see what he wants out of the team, but he doesn't understand what we don't have. We don't have the players for his style. I don't think he understands the level of toughness the Premiership is. I think you're kind of right there, because I kind of alluded to that he seems to want to play a style of football that will be very good in Spain, maybe Italian leagues, that sort of thing. But when it comes to the Premier League, it just doesn't work that way. Not that we can't adapt, because, we've had managers and head coaches come from other countries who've adapted styles. Pep Guardiola is a prime example. He's sort of changed the way football's played in a roundabout sort of way. And but it's just not working with the players that we have. Maybe that style can be suited if we have different players, but we don't, and we're suffering for it. Good evening, Toha. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Epic. Good evening to you, Hammerette. I hope you're well. Manure fans cheering off their players being subbed in the first half is somewhat unpleasant. They're losing 2-0 to Newcastle. Well, at this moment in time, it's 9:20. It was 2-0. Ipswich are beating Chelsea 2-0. I mean, the Premier League this season, hey? Danny boy, I hope you're well, mate. So thank you for joining. A knife, a fork, a bottle, and a cork. I don't know what that means, but I hope you're well, mate. Who else have we got? Daddy Bear, hello, mate. I hope you're well. Just to compete against teams and have a go, wouldn't that be a welcome change? To actually have a team set up to play and give enjoyment. Ain't had that thought for so long now. I think that's what really upset me more than anything else about the game against Liverpool, is we didn't have a go. We didn't have we made it really easy for them. Look, I kind of joked, and I kind of half hoped. I said I thought maybe we get a Desmond out of the game, and I kind of suggested on Facebook that I don't think we're going to lose against it. Well, I know deep down I kind of knew I was kidding myself. But sometimes you do go and hope and get, with the hope that we're going to give them a game. All right, lose, but do it in a manner where we've had a go. Philip, good evening to you. Decided not to go yesterday. Almost couldn't be bothered knowing what was coming. For the goodness sake, Sullivan, you obviously don't give a damn. Saw your post still. You were so down. I was quite pissed actually. So that didn't help with the rant, I guess. Sean, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. I think you might have been right. I was a little bit late. I was literally herding cats, believe it or not. I think the missus has only just come back, but I needed to feed them. Because they were all sleeping all day. Then they woke up and decided we need feeding, and it was 9:05. So there you go. Usual, hello, mate. Newcastle played manure off the pitch in the first half. Who else have we got? Danielle, good evening. Daniela, good evening to you. It was the lack of effort that pissed me off on the bookings yesterday from a team that has been getting 2 a game, says everything. Some should take Salah out on the 5th goal. Salah loves playing a game. I don't know how many goals he's scored against us now. Paul, don't see where the next win is coming from with Lopetegui in charge. Joke of a club. You know, Man City won at the weekend. They've got the taste again now, haven't they? So we're going this Saturday not knowing what to expect, are we? You know, do we expect to win? Probably not. Do we then expect to beat Aston Villa in the FA Cup the following week? Probably not. You know, it's not going to be easy, is it? I think we've got Fulham after that, haven't we? This is a new name. Vishnudev. Good evening, mate. Thank you for joining. I hope you're well. My apologies if you've been here before, but I've not seen that name before, so you're welcome. Lopetegui is no coach. He's a damager. He's worse than Moyes. It's looking that way at this moment in time. Good evening to you, Gary. I hope you're well. I hope he keeps him and they lose so much money. Sullivan deserves all he gets. Hope we lose the next day. Each to their own. I never hope we lose. You know, I always hope we win every game. Will Sullivan have made his mind up after yesterday? Probably not. Will he make his mind up after the game against Man City if we lose that, and we lose that quite badly? I'll come to that later on. Paul, Guilherme looked really good. Why has he not been played? You tell me. You know, he looked quite lively, didn't he? He looked like he's got a bit of, guile in him. He's got a bit of pace, etc. Who knows? Who knows? I'm going to talk about not so much Guilherme. I'll talk a little bit about him later on, but more about Somerville. How must Somerville be feeling? But we'll get to that later. Juha, I just don't think changing Lopetegui this season will solve anything. That's what's going on in my head as well, to be quite honest with you, mate. And I'm going to talk a little bit about, you know, sort of continuity, you know, in West Ham United. I'm doing another show, which will probably go out tomorrow morning, but I'm going to touch on it tonight about, you know, we keep chopping and changing managers, which means we're chopping and changing our style. We're chopping and changing players. There's no continuity, etc. That can't be good for us, to be quite honest with you. Howard, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Who else have we got in the chat? I'll try and say hello to everybody. Daddy Bear, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Seriously, getting to the point where I couldn't give a toss anymore. That hurts. Cheers, Sullivan. You've done that. It's poor, isn't it? Vishnudev, been a Hammer since the 1970. Watched them win 2 FA Cups. I can't even watch them play. You must be around about my age as well, mates. And we've seen good times, but let's be honest, we've seen pretty poor time. We've seen worse than this. And I'm not just talking about Avram, am I? Howard, after the third goal went in, I seriously got up and unblocked the sink and cleaned the house, top to bottom, the things you do when you're fuming. Tell me about it. James, good evening to you. I'm numb watching West Ham at the minute. Nothing surprises me anymore about what Lopetegui does or the results. There's no team. We're just a bunch of individuals. And it does feel like we're playing as individuals. There's no coherence whatsoever. Who else have we got? Ralph, hello, mate. I hope you're well. Happy New Year to you as well. If I don't see you all again, I wish you all a happy New Year. I'm done with it until something changes. I'd take relegation if it meant Sullivan goes. It won't, though. That's the thing. Sullivan will not leave if we get relegated. Bill, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. It looks like my Wi-Fi. Please, my Wi-Fi, don't go down at this time. You've been working well all day. Do forgive me if you're getting some slowness, because it looks like my Wi-Fi has just been hit with something. Bill, good evening all. Looking forward to the West Ham voice of reason. Fingers crossed. After his bad language, I did have a bad rant. He may start early, a lot of expletives, get off our chests. It was awful. I do apologise for it sincerely. Chris, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Someone's going to have to message me and tell me if my Wi-Fi is not working well. Excuse me a sec. Well, the Wi-Fi is plugged in, so I don't know what's going on there. I hope it's not ruining your enjoyment. Anyway, Chris, sack Sullivan, senile old thing. Well, we can't sack the person that owns the club, unfortunately. Good evening to you, Anthony. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, David. I hope you're well. I watched Iron Men today and realised we're just not ever going to be the same club we used to be. Probably not. That's gone, isn't it, really? Michael, good evening to you as well. Bear with me. I'm going to just scroll down to the end and see if anyone's commented about my Wi-Fi. The screen is a bit misty. You're a tad out of focus. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. The Wi-Fi doesn't seem to be clicking at the moment, and I don't understand why. Bear with me, people. I'm going to see if I can fix it, but hang on a minute. Right. I think I've just reset it, but I'm not too sure that's going to work. So my apologies if it doesn't. I don't know what's happening because I've checked it on my phone. It seems fine. Something's going on. Oh, it's better now. Audio's fine. We know, but look, don't worry about it. Okay, so you can hear me. That's good if you can hear me. If you can't see me, my apologies. Does it look okay? Here we go. It's back. It's back. Brief freeze and still working. How about now? I'm fingers crossed. I can see it. Well, that'll do for me. Yeah, it's back. It's back. Sorry about that. There you go. This is what you do. This is what happens when you have a live show. You don't know what'll happen. I'll kill the bloody cats later. Michael, we should play in yellow, 11 cowards on the pitch, even if you can't play for Loppy. Guys, play for the fans. You know, the rant I did yesterday, I've got to admit, it was all on Lopetegui. I blame Lopetegui. What I failed to do was blame quite a few of the players, and I'll come to that later on as well. Toha. They took the foot off in the last quarter, though. Who else have we got? Let's scroll down. Try and get as many comments from everyone in. Michael. Potter be the only choice. Others getting jobs elsewhere. I still don't want Potter. I still don't want him. I'm not convinced by him. And it will be just another... It'll be another stopgap, I feel. Neil, Gary Neville having a cry, said his Manx in red shirts are the worst Premiership team. He hasn't watched us enough. Now, Amarim, you know, I'm sure he'll come good, but then some may say Lopetegui might come good as well. He's not doing too well with Man United, but who gives a damn about Man United? It's about West Ham. Mark, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Good evening to you, Andrew. Potter would be another underwhelming appointment, in my opinion, another mistake. I kind of agree with you, to be quite honest with you. I do. Thank you. I know I had it, but I don't normally. I hate becoming like that. I hate becoming that kind of person where I'm just, because I played that back, you know, to see how embarrassing I was when I did the review last night. And I kept repeating myself. Because I was so angry, I wasn't really being coherent. And I wasn't getting a lot of, I was getting the same message out over and over again. It was like, what did I just do? It was a lot of swearing and a lot of the repeating of stuff. And I thought, well, I don't know if anyone enjoyed that. Hammerette, Stell, don't apologize for being honest and passionate about your feelings. You echoed how most of us felt. Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better. Juha, Stell is a pro and gets out his emotions and turns the next. This is it. No swearing tonight. I've done it. It's out of the way now. West Ham fan 20. Good evening to you. Another new name. So welcome to you as well. I take Potter right now. Oh, I don't know. Andrew, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Good evening, Frog. How are you, mates? Thank you for joining as well. You know what? I can't read Greek. Do you know that, Paul? I actually can't. I was born and raised here, and my mother used to send me to Greek school on Saturdays. I used to bunk off Greek school. I mean, I'm really ashamed of that. I don't know what that Galispera. Galimera. Paul, isn't that embarrassing? Someone writes to me in Greek and I can't read it. Bent over and got spanked. Everyone should be fuming. Housefly, good evening to you. Let's get a new manager in now. West Ham has the most goals scored against us. That's another new name. So welcome to you as well. Dean, evening still. The way the club is run leaves a little to be desired. That I agree with. You know, that the club have got a lot of decisions to make as to what direction we go next. And you know what? In a strange sort of way, it won't surprise me if we actually stick with Lopetegui and get us through the end of the season. As much as many fans won't want that, there might be a logic to that. So let me get to that later on. Neil, anyone who has loved our club can't help being effed off with our club now. We can all see the writing is on the wall. Look, to be honest, I don't think we'll get relegated. Famous last words. I actually really don't think we'll get relegated. I don't think we'll be in a relegation scrap. And the only reason for that is because there are so many poor teams in the Premier League at the moment that there are three worse teams than ours. That's that's not something to sort of like go for, but I do think, Southampton look like they'll definitely go down. All right, Ipswich are winning at the moment, but they might not make it. And one or two others. Wolves look quite dodgy. Everton look, there are a number of teams down there that I think are a lot worse than us, which is, well, Wi-Fi. Don't muck around. Sorry, people. Anyway. So I don't think we'll get relegated, to be honest with you, but it won't be good. Andrew, we were all vexed. Absolutely. Dobby 64, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you. I thank you for that. Yeah, Ipswich winning 2-0. Hayden, good evening to you. Your rant was deserved and justified. The side was lifeless, soulless, heartless, and played without passion. They were pathetic. Absolutely, Daniela. The manager got a lot to answer for, but the players did not turn up, and that is unacceptable. Ultra, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Sullivan's a coward. He won't sack Loppy because Loppy was his choice. He doesn't want to own up that he made a mistake. This is all about Sullivan's ego. There might be another, not that I'm going to protect Sullivan, don't get me wrong. There might be another reason why he might just keep him until the end of the season. Frog, anybody seen our beloved club lately? Can't find it anywhere. Look behind the sofa, etc. Juha, we had a go, but it ended up not going in. Well, we were all right for the first half an hour, and then as soon as they scored, we stopped having a go. All right, I think we hit the woodwork 2 or 3 times. Anthos, evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. What is it about us attracting these duff managers? Lou Macari, Uncle Avram, Lopetegui. Well, look at the man. Well, no, Macari was before these current owners. Rowley, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Rant was justified. Chin up, fella. Thank you, mate. I really appreciate that. Good evening to you, Lee. How are you, mate? Thank you for joining. Good evening to you, Kim. How are you? Never apologize for speaking the truth. Thank you. Sean. Lonely Cat heard it. Yodelay. I love them. Sometimes. Matt, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. I'm much better today than I was yesterday. And thank you. By the way, 183 people watching. If this is your first time on this channel and you enjoy it so far, even though I haven't even gotten into the crux of the show yet, please do subscribe to the channel. Doesn't cost anything to become a subscriber. And if you enjoy the content, please do hit that like button as well. Daz, we need a new manager and new owners. I think we may get a new manager first before we get any new owners. Jeff, lose by the same score against City and Villa, then surely the chairman must act. Yes, I think there might be a logic to that. Glenn, good evening to you. Another new name. Thank you for joining. David Sullivan is never ever going to sack any managers. He's tight as himself. That is true. Black Country, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. No comment anymore about Sullivan. Gets on the boat and sails into the next tsunami. Scott, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. I thought Guilherme and Irving were decent. Yes, I agree. Totally agree. Hammer it. 2 more games is pathetic, really, in the grand scheme of things. What's the point? He's just suddenly going to change his mindset, get the team smashing it. No, so why keep waiting? There might be other reasons, and another main reason is because there may not be the head coach manager that we may want to have. That's probably the reason, the main reason. We get someone like I don't know, Potter in or someone else. It'll feel like being a stopgap again until we get to the summer when we're going to want to go for someone else. Remember Moyes, when he came the first time, he was only given a 6-month deal, and then all of a sudden Pellegrini was the sign, even though Moyes did a reasonably good job in keeping us up. I feel that, the board are probably thinking the same way. Oh, we'll just get Potter in until the summer, then we go and recruit someone else. Is probably their thinking. And Potter is going, on your bite, lads. I ain't going to have that. Andrew. Too many mercenaries in our squad who have little interest in being at the club. We need to drain the swamp as well as getting rid of Loppy. I agree with that. I think there are players in there who haven't been playing for the shirt lately. Marios, Sophocleos. Hello, mate. Diganis Bolagala. Hello, mate, and thank you for joining. Gennaro, how are you, mate? I hope you're well. I thought your post-match video was great. Thank you. It was heartfelt and summed up the mood of the vast majority of the fan base. Thank you very much. Dobby, if relegation got rid of Sullivan, would you take it? Honestly, no. I don't want to, actually, it was fun down in the championship. But no, in all honesty, because I think Sullivan will go at some point. At some point, he will go. So I don't want to have to, because I'll tell you something, we get relegated. There's no guarantee that we'll get straight back up. Absolutely no guarantee at all. Ironically, the championship, for getting in, back into the Premier League is tough. And I don't know, to be quite, we'll lose an awful lot of players. We'll have to rebuild. And I just don't know if we'd manage it, to be quite honest with you. So no, to be honest, Dobby, I wouldn't take it, to be honest. Who else have we got? Frog. Even if we squeak results against City and Villa, we all know where this is heading with Lopetegui. Nowhere. He's clearly incompetent. Scott, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Oops, let's get that back up. I wasn't expecting us to stack him still. This board doesn't care. I think the board do care. It's their business. They're making a good load of money out of this club. But so long as we're in the Premier League, I think that's all they seem to care about. My bloody Wi-Fi's gone again. I don't understand what's going on. My apologies for that. Gary, if Bowen is out for a while, we ain't got a striker. Well, we got Fulkrug. It's the Cats. I don't know what it is, Black Country, but I can see my Wi-Fi has dropped again, which is really frustrating. Fred, evening to you, mate. Our goal difference got to be relegation level. Always a good way to gauge where you end up. Absolutely agree with that. Excuse me again. Why is my Wi-Fi going down? It's been working all right all day. That's really annoying. Colin, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. We're rubbish on that performance yesterday. Cannot see us getting many points. Next 8 games, we have become a circus, and Sullivan is the ringleader. Happy New Year. Scott, strange how a manager, I don't know what's going on with my Wi-Fi. I'm really, really sorry. It's back up again now. I know it's gone down twice already since I started, and I don't really understand why. Nothing's changed. No settings have changed or anything. Scott, strange how a manager changed to Wolves, made a team with much less valued players, all of a sudden improved them. Is it that he can't handle certain types of players, certain level of players? Kudus, big shots. Kudus and various others. Maybe that's the problem. Paqueta, etc. Matt, long live the bowling. Long gone, mate. I know. Dean, on us fans seeing worse than this still, I reckon Loppy is really pushing Makari for that honour at the moment. I say he's pushing Avram. Glennie, good evening to you. It's worrying in the way that we couldn't keep the ball for long. We've not kept the ball for long all season. That's one of the issues, isn't it? He likes playing possession-based football, but no good playing possession-based football when it's all playing back to the goalie all the time. We couldn't keep the ball on. Passes going astray. No idea how to attack. Too slow in transition. It's very worrying as well. Probably lose players in January. I don't think I don't think we'll lose players in January. Players that I think are peripheral to the team, not essential. Have I Vaseline? No, I've got a new light and it is sharp. It's pretty bright. Do you mean that? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. I haven't had time to see. Amateur. I haven't had time to set it up properly, Howard. Bill, another injury for Bowen caused by the bin. That is true. Again. It is better now. Good. I'm glad. Kim, audio's fine. We know what you look like, so don't worry about it. Who else have we got? Stephen, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. It ain't ever going to change, is it? It might do, but it might not. Frog, streaming LQ for some reason will survive. Who else have we got in here? Delton, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. I was so numb after the game. Lopo, no imagination, no creativity, and not able to motivate out of his depth. Yeah, Christine, good evening. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Scott, next season we'll have part of our club back, hopefully with a new manager who starts playing our youth. That will bring back our identity. Depends on who we get in. And that's the one thing that worries me about chopping and changing managers, is that the academy suffers. Because if we keep getting managers that come in to do fixes, we're always fixing things, then they're always going to look at the here and now. They're not going to look at long term. We need a manager that's going to come in for the long term. That's the thing that I'm more concerned about at this moment in time. Dobby, the players haven't got a clue what they're supposed to be doing. It was a weird setup. I'll talk about the setup in a minute. Philip, no need to apologize for the rant. Pure emotion. Heard a lot worse from me during and after the shambles. Funny how Scott, Paul and City have played their youngsters, and yet we can't. And the irony is that every time we've played one of our young, I'm going to include Guilherme in on that and Ollie Scars in on that. Every time we put them in this season, they've actually looked okay. Glennie, what do other clubs believe in? Why do other clubs believe in playing their youth? They will never get experience if they don't play. And that's the thing, isn't it? You know, you don't play them, they don't get the experience. All right, yeah, you send them out on loan. But if they've gone out on loan and they've done well, then surely you bring them back in into the fold so that they're competing to be part of the senior squad. You know, Freddie Potts is a prime example who did exceptionally well at Wycombe Wanderers last season. And I thought, great, he's going to come back in and be part of the squad this season. And ironically, we need a central holding midfielder to back up Alvarez because Rodriguez ain't it. And what happens? He was sent back out on loan again. All right, he's doing well for Portsmouth again. That's 2 seasons out on loan now. Does that mean at the end of this season he comes back and stakes a claim in the senior squad? I hope so. I really do. Scott, Amorim hasn't had a transfer yet. True. Julian Lopetegui has spent over 100 million and this is what we get. Good point. Yeah, fair play. John, Stelios, is it true that David Sutherland set up a crowdfunding page to pay Lopetegui's compensation? Gennaro, I don't like swearing, mate. No need to apologise. When passion is running high, we all do things we wouldn't normally do. True, that is true. Thank you. Howard, because we never comfortable ahead in any game, we have played this calendar year. Scott, answering to Scott. Black Country, don't worry, Stel. Say it as you believe in it, mate. Yep, true. Scott. Only West Ham can spend 100 million plus and go backwards. Actually, I've got to add Man United to that list as well. Good evening to you, Graham. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Mr. Cater, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Bill, good evening in Greece. Yeah, it was good evening, wasn't it? Yeah. That's bad, isn't it, Paul? Bill, Potter's wife is Brady's. I know, I've heard about this. I think I spoke about this about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Potter himself was her husband's mate primarily. If he gets the job and gets it wrong, it will all be on her head and the fans will kick off. I don't know if Potter's coming in, to be honest with you. I really don't. It's too easy a story because they're, friends and all that sort of stuff. It's too easy. I don't think Potter will come in. I could be wrong. Delton, we can blame the players if we like, but managers' tactics are non-sensible, so it becomes individuals instead of collective teamwork. True. Andrew, get Bilic into the end of the season. Give us the time to get the next appointment right. Would I take Slaven? That's really interesting. Would I take Slaven Bilic? Maybe yes. Would I want to keep Slaven? I guess it all depends on how well he does. But maybe to the end of the season, would he be a good bet? He certainly knows the club, doesn't he? I don't know. Yeah, maybe. Howard, to Scott, no youth because we never been ahead of comfortable in any games. It's not just about being ahead in the games themselves, but it's about the long-term strategy of the club. When we keep, under Moyes, everyone blamed David Moyes for not playing the youth. In a way, I kind of understood it. Why? Because he was always under pressure to produce. He was always under threat of you're going to get sacked if you don't produce, etc. So what does he do? He goes, well, I'm going to try and get results in any way I can. The youth doesn't get included in that, but you're right. I make you right, Howard. If we're sort of ahead comfortably in games, then yes, that's when the youth is used. I mean, fair play to Lopetegui the other week when we were against Bournemouth, was it? I can't remember. When he brought on Ollie Scars, he used him at a crucial stage of the game. And I thought, great. Are you going to carry on doing that? Clearly not. He went back to type against Liverpool at the weekend. Hammer 84. Good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Who's playing worse than us? I'd say Southampton are, definitely. I'd say Ipswich have their moments, etc. Wolves have their moments, etc. I think there are teams down there that are currently as bad, if not worse than us. Mark, even Kudus annoyed me. Where was that effort before? He was playing for a move, in my opinion. Yeah, apparently a lot of people said he was in the shop window for the first half hour of the game. And then when they scored, he seemed to switch off. Daniel, if the season is scrapped, then I totally disagree with no change of coach's time. With players is everything before the summer transfer market. Good point. Infamy, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Scott, Howard, I said next season. This season, he's now only finally given some youth minutes. He is. Was he forced to because he had no other players? Graham, I don't think we're that good. We have no idea on the pitch. No, It's not great. Dorset, good evening, mates. I hope you're well. Hammerette, we're crap in attacking, woeful at the back and missing a midfield. We don't have a lot going for us. Yeah, well, we're still 13th in the league. Chippy, good evening, mate. What is our identity? You tell me, because I don't know. It's gone, hasn't it? Lee, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Villa Brighton is a great game. 2-2 on 82 minutes. 2-2. See? I bet the fans are passionate watching that. Finai, good evening, mates. I hope you're well. The board probably don't see Lopetegui as the man for the future. I'd be inclined to agree with that. Why not give a caretaker chance? Potts, Will Still, or Masuaku? Haha. Will Still, I'm not sold on Will Still. I don't know why. Sometimes I get things in my head, about Potter, about Will Still, and I think, no, I don't know. I'm not sure that's the right approach. Potts, I don't know. Masuaku for another day. I miss the good old days when Yamo used to come on. I know. Chris. Hey, Upstill. Chris from Brilliant. Good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Silent 5-hour return home after the game last night. Just numb. Dean, well, I think we all were. Dean, never apologise for heartfelt emotion. Thank you, mate. When you turn the rest of us who aren't as measured as you, realise it's really got bad. Yeah, infamy. West Ham way used to be conceding an equaliser or winner in the final 10 minutes or an extra time. Now the way is conceding 5 or more multiple times. How many games have we lost by 4, 5, 6 goals this season? It's been really bad. Just this season alone. Forget about the whole year. I'm just thinking about Lopetegui's record. After getting our pants pulled down 5-0, the DJ at the London Stadium had the cheek to play. I know that was in the background. I got done by YouTube. It was funny. When I did the rant, I was in the stadium and they were playing that in the background. And then YouTube said, copyright. They were threatening to take the bloody video down. Couldn't make it up, could you? Colin, Stel, but we cannot say we're too good to go down. I said that years back when we did get relegated. I'm not saying that we're too good to go down. I just don't think we will. I really do not. Housefly, do you believe Sullivan will sell up in 2025? Well, there was talk quite some time ago. I did a show, I can't remember how long ago, when I talked about Sullivan and the other board members were talking about maybe releasing a combined number of shares so that there could be a proper investor come in to own a third of the club. Now that's all gone quite quiet. We've still got the Golds still have shares that they can't sell, but they've only got a 10% stake that they're selling. Result: Man United 0, Newcastle 2. So that's just finished. So we're still above Man United. So they were looking at selling 10%. They can't get rid of those 10% shares. I think probably what people are saying is, well, I've got no stake. 10% is nothing for me. What do I get out of that? But there was interest about releasing more shares. I don't think Sullivan will sell up, but I think there may be something going on that I spoke about ages ago about the potential of releasing enough shares between the other shareholders to offer a third of the club. I don't know if that... Let's see what happens in the summer there. Excuse me. Toha. Question: we play Villa away twice in January. Would we prefer points or start of a cup run? That's a really good question. I'm greedy. I prefer the points and a cup run. Andrew, it pains me to say, but we're the most boring and uninspiring team to watch in the Premier League. Utter garbage. Can't disagree with that. Ben, good evening to you. So what if we go down? Would it be a good thing? We're just also rounds. We're just in the Premier League to make up the numbers. We'll never win the title, that's for sure. So sick of the Premiership. We've never won the title. Well, no, I don't ever expect us to win the title in my lifetime. Winning another trophy, we're a cup team, aren't we? Winning another trophy here and there might be nicer to get a few more trophies, get back into Europe, etc. But then you could say the other 19 teams that don't win the league are also there just to make up the numbers. There's only ever going to be one team that's going to win the league. Will there ever be another Leicester City? Probably not. Will we ever catch up to the teams in the top 4? Probably not. But I don't want to go down. I don't want to be relegated. I don't think that would be good for us, to be quite honest with you. Turbo. Best thing about yesterday was getting the early train home. Fed up doesn't even come close. Does Areola keep the net? Good point. Hold that thought when I go into the review of the game. Nando, good evening to you. Hello, mate. I hope you're well. Oh, morning to you. Happy New Year, New Year's Eve from Australia. We need to accept Lopetegui will be here till the end of the season. Sullivan will not sack him. That's quite possible. That is quite possible. Charles, thank you so much. I never expect it, never asked for it, but I really appreciate it. I've got 249 listening, watching now. Please, people, if you've yet to subscribe, please do become a subscriber of the channel. That'd be great. And also, please hit the like button as well. And Charles, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Adam, save our concessions now. Adam, I hear there's news coming out, isn't there? Make West Ham great again. Senior sources are confused, and 90s being above Man United would mean being league winners. There you go. How bad is Bowen? Haven't heard anything at all. Unfortunately, they kept stum. Coming off with half an hour to go wasn't great. Bowen would never, will never be taken off, would he? So I don't know is the honest truth. I think we'll probably find out in the next couple of days. It's his ankle. If he's turned it, it might be swollen. Might have to wait for a result. And if it's swollen, he may not make Saturday, to be honest with you. Simon, if the players were paid on performances, then maybe they would try a bit more. Here's the irony, Si. They are paid on performances. They're paid for it. They're given a bonus for a win. They're given a bonus for scoring a goal. Given a bonus for clean sheets and all that sort of crap. But believe it or not, they get a basic wage. And then they get bonuses for other things on top of that. They do get bloody bonuses, mate. I don't think they're getting any bonuses for yesterday's performance. Kim, seeing the stats of Sullivan sitting in the director's box yesterday, I think the decision to leave may not be his. Leaving the club or the decision to sack Lopetegui? Which one do you mean, Kim? Glennie, it looks like players don't understand what the tactics are or what are expected. Their confidence went yesterday and they looked lost. They did, especially when the first goal went in. All of a sudden, it just looked like that was it. How far behind am I? Bloody hell. I haven't even done the loan news. Graham, hello, mate. I hope you're well. It's as if Liverpool result wasn't bad enough. It started snowing again. It's quite hard down there, isn't it, where you are or up there? Who else we got? Gennaro. The zombie apocalypse holds no fear for me, but the appointment of Lopetegui's replacement does. You're doing a great Max Headroom. Thank you very much. Hayden, maybe the board have lined up someone else. Carrick. Well, there has been talk about that. I spoke about that a few weeks back. But if they have got him lined up, it probably won't be until next season. They're waiting for the conclusion of. There you go. You said it. They're waiting for the conclusion of this season. We are so far into this season. What would be the point of getting a stopgap coach now? That's my thinking as well, to be honest with you, Hayden. Nil. Sullivan will never leave. He probably has it in his will to be buried under the pitch. Ben, we've conceded 5 at Upton Park once in 16 years, and that was 5-3 loss to Man United. So far at the Athletic Stadium, 5-0 Liverpool, 5-1 Arsenal, 5-2 Arsenal, 6-0. Not great, is it? At times you need to. I know, mate, but I wasn't going to reboot it halfway through a show. But I know that it seems to be all right now. So fingers crossed. Hammer it. Carrick will bring back some unity to the club. Yes, but will we as fans be patient if it doesn't go well for him? Andrew, knowing Sullivan, he'll eventually step down but hand over power to his son. That's a huge possibility. John, the structure of the club is all wrong from the boardroom down to the academy and the ridiculous setup of split training grounds, amateurish. Yeah, I agree with you on that. The structure of the club is wrong. Other clubs, that's why we look over with envy, not so much about, how well they do, but the likes of Brighton and Bournemouth, etc., that seem to have their shit together. And we seem to, we try it, don't we? We go and get ourselves a technical director and then we F it up by not allowing that technical director, well, I think Stein's got a lot to answer for, but we F it up by not allowing the technical director to do his job. Andrew, can't see how we spend in January. No way can we trust Loppy or Steiden to bring in anyone up present. That's a really good point. That's a really good point. Let's scroll down. Do forgive me. I do try and get as many comments as I can. Good evening to you, early doors. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Anthony, Ludo needs a mention. He does indeed. Ludo Miklosko was introduced to the crowd before the game. He said he's not going to do, I think, chemo or whatever. He's just going to let it ride out. I mean, great man. Great legend. And we wish him well, don't we? Absolutely. Colin, stalemate. What I'm fearing is this rubbish continues. We are being served up. Let alone players like Kudus wanting to leave. I can also see Bowen gone. Here, Liverpool interested. Bowen won't go. Bowen's look. This is where I start thinking to myself, the players themselves have got a responsibility here. If someone like Kudus, who's like, since he's come back from his suspension, he hasn't exactly pulled up many trees, has he? He hasn't exactly done very well, dear old Kudus. He starts a game, people said the first half hour of the game against Liverpool as if he was in shop window, but to be honest with you, I'm a bit disappointed with Kudus. I'm disappointed with quite a few players, to be honest, and Kudus is one of them. So if he wants to leave, if he's playing the way he's playing, take the money and run. Infamy. Maybe we're taking the Nottingham Forest approach. This and next season will be bad, and then we'll be second in the table. They've got it sorted, haven't they? To be honest with you, fair play to them. Fair play to them. They've got it right. I just thought I thought Forest were a circus the last couple of years. They were buying players left, right, and centre. All of a sudden, they've got a strategy in place, which is really quite interesting. Who else have we got? Bilic wasn't backed in his second season. Sullivan threw him under a bus. Well, was his second season, our first season in the new stadium, and we ended up buying a whole load of tosh, didn't we? We got silly players. Thank you, Thomas. Really appreciate it, mate. I really appreciate it. Thank you for that. Who else have we got? Let's scroll down. Sean, any updates on Ipswich game? Not seeing anything. They were winning 2-0. I don't know what that result is yet. I don't think anything's going to come up on my phone. No, just the Man United result. John, only the bottom three clubs have a worse goal difference. That tells the story. That does indeed. It is poor. Good night to you, Black Country. Thank you for joining, mates, and thank you for your comments as always. Andrew, we're not too good to go down. The 2003 team was on a different level to these imposters. Matt, Stell, do you get along with West Ham? I know Nick and people. I don't really see many of the other YouTube. I bump into them every now and again. Yeah, they're good lads. I know them. Yeah. Adam said he was here until summer at the earliest. Who was here until summer? Anthony, the only difference between us and the teams like Ipswich and Wolves is that they give it a go and put an effort in. That is true. That is true. Just Matt, good evening to you. We need characters. John Moncur wasn't the greatest, but he knew what it meant to wear the shirt. We need players with attitude. Good point. Yeah, I like that. Martin, good evening to you. Lots of fans are criticising Tim Steidten, but let's not forget he bought Kudus. Not really, who could already go for 85 million. That's nearly a 50 million profit. He was kind of identified before as Steidten by others. There's talk that Mark Noble identified him. Steidten was sent over to complete the deal. See, there are certain people in life that some start things, projects, some finish projects. Steidten's a good finisher. He goes and cuts the deal, and takes the photos in the jet plane and all that. He didn't necessarily find Kudus for us, to be honest. Gaza, he's got a lot to answer for, Steidten. Do you think that Ipswich result will worry the West Ham board because they're not far from relegation now? Probably not. Not yet. Not yet. Sam, Graham Potter now as soon as possible. Recall JWP. Now CBA with good central with Guido Rodriguez. Is it me? Is it me on that's got a bit of a downer on Potter, or do other people think that he's probably not the right man for the job either? Infamy. Frankly, Tim Steidten deserves as much criticism as everyone else in the club. Bringing in Kudus doesn't mean he doesn't deserve scrutiny or criticism. Agree with that. Neil, who in their right mind would buy shares when Sullivan will retain control? Well, no, this is the whole idea. The whole idea is that Sullivan will reduce his ownership to a third and Kretinsky to a third, and primarily another buyer. So they'll have roughly about the same amount of shares each, so that there's actual control. And once you've got the same level of control, then the decision making changes. People keep going on about what's wrong with Kretinsky. Why doesn't he get involved? Kretinsky is a money man. He's just doing this for the money. He's got someone that represents him on the board, but when it comes to decisions, he's got other things to worry about, like buying the Royal Mail and things like that. Scott, no, will there there will be no cup run. Even lower league teams will work us out. Infamy. We've had past managers and directors bring in great players too. Styling shouldn't be free of any criticism. Somerville, who I think is one of our better players, apparently that was a Sullivan recommendation. So I don't know. Ben, Sullivan is the sole reason for this club's downfall. We have conceded 109 goals in 58 games. Fucking hell. Chris, this isn't West Ham United anymore. The amount of Liverpool fans yesterday in our end was a shambles. Had enough. It's awful. But let's be really honest now. We've done it at away grounds and they were quieter, but we used to have away fans at Upton Park. Yes, shock horror. We did. Probably not as many, but I make you right, Chris. There are a lot of away fans in the home end at the London Stadium. Do forgive me. I'm going to miss out a few comments just to try and catch up, so I can get on with other parts of the show. Kim, sorry, Stel, was a typo. Meant to say state of Sullivan. He's not a well man, in my opinion. Well, he's getting old, that's for sure. And he's lost his bit on the side. Schizo, evening to you. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Paul, with PLC is a very successful organizer. West Ham PLC is a very successful organization. It's just the football operation that lets it down. I hear Red Bull are going to be revealed as stadium sponsors if they were to take 25% stake and run football side. Well, that's a good point. I've always alluded to this, Paul. I've always said the business side of West Ham United has been run exceptionally well. You may disagree, but it has. The stadium move was a good business transaction. Not necessarily for the football, but on the business sense, I make you right. Absolutely. And you're absolutely 100% right. It's the footballing operation that hasn't gone well. And now people are going to be confused and go, well, hang on a minute, but it is a football club. There are two sides to every football club. There's the business end and there's the footballing end. We've not really looked after our footballing end. There is no continuity, as I've said earlier on in the show, and that's where the problem lies. But on a business level, oh yeah, they've made a shitload of money out of West Ham United. Chris, I've seen one or two great nights over that stadium. Club has died soulless. Seville, for example, a couple of other games have been great. Graham, only -9 overnight, nowhere near as hot as the chair that Loppy currently occupies. -9. Mate, I'd die. Delton, players and managers should be deducted salaries based on negative results. Hammerette. Can't blame any players who want out the club. Some of them, they're contributing to this, let's not forget. I know the tactics are all wrong, but they're also contributing to some of their poor displays. Somerville must be. I agree about Somerville. Kudus flashing his knickers. Let him go. Pax ain't got a clue. Agreed. Alvarez looks done here. Yeah, he's elsewhere as well. Andrew, but you've answered your own thing. Can't blame players for wanting out, and yet these players are not playing, are they? Even if you're given shit tactics, you put effort in, don't you? You do. You should do. As someone else said about understanding what it's like to wear the West Ham shirt. Andrew, if we had a proper manager and a successful team, nobody would be complaining about the stadium. The board are fully to blame. I agree with that. When we were in Europe, when we were filling that stadium and we were in Europe having those European nights, no one moaned. And that is absolutely true. David, good evening to you. We're a franchise club now, thanks to our owners. They don't want us Upton Park fans, so disconnected to the club. I followed for 40 years. Make you right there. True Culture, good evening to you. I hope you're well. Delton, if Bowen's England place is under threat, he may not have much choice but to leave. I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't think he will leave. I can see other players leaving. Alvarez, Paquetá. Well, Paquetá, it's all down to what happens with his hearing in March. Kudus, yeah. Those players will leave. Bowen, I don't know. Hamrick, I think Carrick would be given time by the fans. The connection, younger with new ideas. We don't ask for a lot and see a project being built would be exciting, something we can get behind. I agree with you. Let me give you this scenario. Carrick comes in. We start the first season. He's at first season and we're fighting a relegation battle and it's touch and go, but we just scrape relegation. Second season, touch and go again. It might take 2 seasons for a manager like that, for a young manager like that. Would we, in all honesty, turn around and go, oh, Carrick's all right. He understands the club. I'm not so sure, I'm not so sure. I'd like to think we would, but I'm not sure that we would. George, good evening today. Good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Strengthen up defense and get Anjin. Postecoglou? Do you mean Postecoglou? Well, will be more exciting to watch. Our defense will be more shit, but will be more exciting to watch. Infamy. I'm off for today. Have a great. Thank you, mate. Thank you for joining. Happy New Year to you as well. Richard, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. We haven't been the same since Rice left. Well, I don't know about that because the first season after Rice left, we were all going, oh, who needs Declan Rice? That first season under Rice, when Alvarez was smashing it, we all went, yeah, this is great. This is wonderful. This is all right. We did. Kim, I agree. HH, Carrick comes in from a time when we were West Ham. He'd get time. I'd like to think he would. I'd like to think we would. Foxes, we can go top 10 next week. And this is the mad irony of the current Premier League. We can go in the top 10 next week. Martin, at least Steiden is a great negotiator. We're no longer spending the entire summer chasing Lingard. We're not. But he spent far too long out in Brazil chasing the wrong teenager. He brought maybe the wrong team. He was after, I can't remember the guy's name. He played for another club in Brazil. And then he ended up with Guilherme. He spent a long time out there chasing that central defender in Brazil as well. That didn't eventually come to us as well. I don't know, I don't know. When Steiden first arrived at West Ham United, I went, this is the most important signing we've ever made. A technical director. A year on now, and I'm thinking, I'm not sure. Sam, I think Todibo and Somerville should be starting, and Areola, I think, can because 2 years out. I agree with that. I actually do agree with that. Let Todibo play. Apparently, he's been carrying knocks, which is why he's not been starting regularly. I totally agree with Somerville, and I 100% agree with Areola. I really don't think Areola should have been dropped. Mark, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. It's 2-2 to go yesterday. You were good that you were. Evening still. Can't believe Sullivan is happy about running his business into the ground. Nothing the fans will do will not change anything. Well, the thing is, though, he's not running it into the ground, is he? Because the money's still rolling in. Evening, Nick. I hope you're well. I need to message you, haven't I? So my apologies for not doing so. Who else have we got here? Delton. I think Kudus' performance drops because he's not enjoying our performances, and Lopetegui is blinkered against some players. I agree with that. Andrew, I cannot understand the urgency to make Soler's loan permanent. I get it. I'll come to that in a minute. What has he done that's so great to be rushed through? Madness, just waiting until the end of the season. Well, let me answer that. I think it's freeing up a loan place. And I think maybe then we'll go, and I'll talk about transfers a little bit later on. We'll go to maybe bring a striker in on loan to buy deal. That's what I'm believing could possibly happen. Richard, agree on the business and money made still, but a club that doesn't own its own ground won't pose an attractive offer to a potential investor. It will in a way. Why? Because we're in London. Why? Because we're a Premier League team. Yes, I get it. You're absolutely right. We don't own the stadium, and that might be a hindrance to some, but West Ham United is still a good proposition purely because we're a London-based Premier League football club, and some people want to invest in that. Gennaro, why do you think Kretinsky has? He's making a shitload of money, mate. He's not too displeased. Gennaro, I know somebody who worked at the club on the business side of things, said the likes of Brady and Sullivan were brilliant business people, but didn't have a clue about football. Spot on. Absolutely correct, that is. Nick, I'm pretty lost with all things West Ham, struggling to find any light at the end of this tunnel, to be honest. Don't care which players leave. Bowen aside, I don't feel a connection with any of them. I'm inclined to agree. I'm looking at some of the players that are out there, and I'm thinking, all right, okay, the tactics are not good. Well, I make you right. The tactics are definitely not good. But then when I start seeing the way some players are performing, that includes the likes of Kudus, Paquetá, Alvarez, etc. And I'm saying to myself, tactics or not, at least put some effort in, lads. So I'll make you right. Mark, I never played pro footy, but used to play Saturday and Sunday and Tuesday night and Thursday night, played different positions throughout every game, even in goal. I always put 100% in and played. Same. I did well. My Saturday football didn't even start. Broke my ankle. in the season warm-up. There you go. That was the extent of my Sunday football. Kimbo, if the players are happy to take their wages, they should be willing to pull their socks up and get stuck in. Absolutely agree. Nick, again, in terms of a manager, I don't know who I dislike enough to come in next and take this poison chalice. Daz, we need a new manager and owners and a better stadium and need to spend lots of money in January. Ironically, I don't think we need to spend lots of money in January. I think we need a couple of players. I certainly think we need a striker, a much more agile striker, definitely. With regards to other areas, central defender will do, that can cover or maybe compete for a spot in the starting lineup. And we need a box-to-box midfielder. Those three positions we need. Will we get all three in the January window? Maybe, maybe not. There's talk about Alvarez possibly moving back a centre back. That fills me with a bit of dread. And there's talk about not getting a central midfielder in. But striker, I believe, is one that we definitely going to look for. Jack, Areola was again weak with low shots at his near post. He's a good at reflex saves, as we saw, but weak at some basic stuff. And yet, in all honesty, I would rather have Areola in the goal than Fabianski, because Fabianski's got off lightly. Fabianski is also a good shot stopper, but he also makes errors. The goal against Brighton, that's down to Fabianski. If that was Areola, everyone would be spitting feathers. But because it was Fabianski and he got knocked out, was it Brighton? Yes, it was Brighton, wasn't it? That was an error. That was an error by Fabianski. Got nowhere near the ball. Early doors. Stel, I'm off early in the morning. Happy New Year to Galacronia. Thank you, mate. Much appreciated, and a happy New Year to you as well. Rico, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Deitch out, make the change now. Dan freaking Ipswich 2-0. Did they win 2-0? Good evening to you, Rico. Kim, I would class Sullivan and Brady as brilliant opportunists as opposed to brilliant business people. Opportunists, they can sniff a deal, can't they? And they get it done. Mr. Forges, how are you? What can supporters do to force Sullivan's hand to stack Lopetegui? I'm really in two minds. As much as I know we need something different, and I'm not a fan of Lopetegui and his style. At the same time, my head keeps going, do we make the change now, or do we suffer until the summer? Andrew, when you have the chairman, director of football, manager all wanting to bring players in, you're always going to end up with a mess like we're experiencing right now. I've talked about this before. Now, my understanding is that Stardon goes out and finishes the deal. He completes the deal. Now, what Stardon should be doing, he's brought his brother in. Where is he? What's going on with Moritz Stardon? The one that's meant to be looking out for international transfers. What's going on with Maximilian? I can't remember Hahn, who's the digital the data guru that he's brought in as well. Apparently, this lad that they brought in is an absolute a force in transfers with data analysis. And what's going on there? How come we haven't found? How come we haven't unearthed a gem that's where apparently Steiner is meant to bring in? I don't understand it. I've got a feeling that I don't want to say it too loud, but I've got a feeling Steiner might be a bit of a fraud. Anthony, still, why don't we move the Wimbledon to the London Stadium? I don't know. Probably costs money because we hire it out for a certain number of games each year, so that will cost more money. Jack, looking at the goals conceded, Kudus and Paquetá spent too much time ball watching. Agreed. So much space for Paul, while several of our players were just ambling around. Totally agree with that. Totally agree. Martin, currently watching last year's game against Arsenal where we won 2-0. Feels like the same game, except back then we had a bit more luck and a bit more solidity in defence. Absolutely agree with that. Eltel, good evening to you. On the banks of the Royal Mersey. You want to be Everton fan? We've been bad place for 3 years. It's all right. We're bad enough as it is. We don't want to be Everton fans. I hope you're well, mate, and thank you for joining. Just Mac. We have the players and the team there. A couple of additions maybe. What we need is a manager who knows how to utilise these players. I agree with that. Russ, good evening to you. Do you think Steiner is the wrong director of football, or do we scrap the role? That's a really good question. My gut tells me that he's probably the wrong director of football. Like I said earlier in the show, excuse me, when we first got him, I was like, wow, You know, we're doing something really positive here on the footballing side. As I mentioned earlier, we're great on the business side, but we've never been good on the footballing side. And I really thought this was the start of a good change for West Ham United, that all of a sudden, by bringing in a director of football, things were going to change for the better. They haven't. Now, you could argue, you know, he's not been allowed to do his job, etc. I would throw that argument back again and say two things. First of all, he spent far too long in Brazil at the beginning of the transfer window, far too long in Brazil, chasing players that didn't eventually come to us. And I've got a suspicious feeling that he thought, well, shit, I can't come back empty-handed. I'll get Guilherme. That'll do. You know, he's a prospect. He might just work out. So there was that. So now no one forced him to go out and stay in Brazil for a month or whatever it was. He stayed out there long enough to go and try and get some deals done. That didn't work out well. That's all on Steiden. And then right at the end of the season, all right, we were chasing John Duran, and you've all got your, you know, you're thinking of why I still maintain, you know, if Villa really wanted to sell, they would have sold. They were after another player to replace Duran. They didn't get it, so they didn't want to sell, and they were making it hard for us. And then because of that, we ended up getting Fulkrug. That was on Tim Steiden too. 31 years of age, a known injury record, you know, and Steiden went, well, so he did a makeshift at the beginning of the season with the probably the Brazilian he probably didn't want to target. Well, no, Brazilian that he wasn't targeting first off. I wish I could remember the other guy's name. And then at the end of the transfer window, he brought in Fulkrug. No one forced him to buy those two players. So do we have the wrong director of football? It's quite long answer to a short question. Quite possibly, yes. Stel, what about the Middlesbrough forward, Leon? Yes, apparently we're interested in him, but that's gone quiet. So let's see. Transfer window opens in what, 2 days' time? So let's see what happens. Bill, problem with additional players coming in January. We haven't got the current crop working together. Our tactics are not working. Bringing new players won't help. Bringing in a striker, a pacey striker, I think will help. What's Carlos Backer up to? But bringing in a fast striker, I think will help. Juha. Yeah, I liked it when he came on. He looked quite lively, didn't he, Guilherme? Juha. I named Lopetegui cat kisses last match. He was always blinking slowly and watching the distance. He does look troubled, doesn't he? True culture. That Salah should have been an easy save yesterday from the look, the third goal, I admit, that was Areola's fault. I can't blame him for all the others. But unfortunately, okay, here's a scenario. What's going to happen if Fabianski returns to goal, which he probably will, against Man City on Saturday? If Man City thump 5 past us, are we all going to turn around and go, oh, drop him? Because this is what's happening with Areola, and I'm disappointed for Areola. What a game to come back into against top of the table, free scoring Liverpool. What a game to come back to. I make you right. The third goal wasn't great, but he pulled off a couple of very decent saves, though. Colin, Happy New Year to you as well, mate. And cats. Thank you, mate. Much appreciated. And Happy New Year to you as well, mate. Thank you. Who else have we got here? Frog. We need to work out how to use and motivate the players we already have. Spunking money on players before we know if they will fit in again, before we spunk money on players. I agree with that, but I still think we do a striker, a pacey striker could change this team. It really could. Do I think we've got it all right? No, of course not. We've still got problems in defence. We've still got problems in midfield, but a pacey striker might make a big difference. Delton, if Ipswich go down, what about Delap? Yeah. Steady central midfielder. Lopo won't try Kudus central midfield. Such a shame. He had an opportunity on Sunday to play Kudus in the middle, and he didn't do it. Sam, my mate's a Forest fan, and he said Ward-Prowse is crap, and also Forest don't even need him because they have other midfielders anyway. He's not getting a lot of game time, is he? He's not getting a lot of game time. Jack, Lopetegui has been with us since the 1st of July, but it looks as if he hasn't made any effort to improve his English. In my opinion, communication is a must. Do the players understand what he's saying from the touchline? Probably not, I would imagine. Martin, I just don't get why Guilherme's not getting any game time, especially given the circumstances. I agree. And he came on, and Somerville came on, and they both looked lively, didn't they? They both had pace. Andrew, nothing will change, unfortunately, until we have new owners. There's no guarantees that will work out. Just look at Man United. Well, this is the thing I say. You know, Man United had new owners. They've squeezed the life out of Manchester United. They're in debt, aren't they? They're in debt by a big tune as well. You know, we could get new owners and they might do exactly the same to West Ham United as well. Kimbo, do you think there is anyone at the club that knows what they're doing? Because at the moment, I don't. I'm sure there are one or two that know, but it's looking a little weak at the moment, isn't it? Kim, when Lopetegui was appointed, weren't we told he'd been watching the club for 6 months prior and made a dossier on what we were told that indeed? Who lied to us, eh? Right, let's do a bit of Loan Watch and then I'll come back to, I still haven't analysed the game. And look at that. James Ward-Prowse is the first person. Let me just okay, good. In the Premier League, Ward-Prowse played the final 8 minutes as Nottingham Forest secured their 5th straight Premier League win for the first time since 1995. Forest's 2-0 win over Everton took them into second place. Are they still second? They might be. Ward-Prowse also appeared on 82nd minute substitute for Forest in their 1-0 win over Spurs. Who else? Freddie Potts and George Earthy faced off in the Championship as Earthy's Bristol defeated Potts' Portsmouth 3-0. Potts began the game on the bench for the first time since September after 16 consecutive starts, but Portsmouth went 3-0 down after 35 minutes. Potts was brought on with half an hour left of the game, but was unable to help his team to blah, blah, blah. Earthy came on playing the final 20 minutes of that game as well. Also, last week, Earthy appeared for the final 16 minutes of Bristol's 1-0 home win over Luton Town. As for Potts, last week he played the full 90 minutes, but was unable to prevent Portsmouth from losing 2-1 at Watford. Now, what I'm pleased about is that Potts and Earthy are getting some game time in the Championship. That's got to bode well. All right, Potts is getting a lot more game time. He's playing a lot more starts. But Earthy at least is getting some. He was injured for a little while as well. But I'm pleased to see that these players are getting game time in the Championship. In League One, at the weekend, Callum Marshall, he's also getting a lot of game time. 90 minutes for Huddersfield Town for the third time in just 9 days as they drew 1-1 with Burton Albion. His game last week was a narrow 1-0 win over fellow promotion hopefuls Stockport County. Another player that's getting a lot of game time. And another one who's come back from injury in the third tier, Gideon Korua, continued his gradual return to action for Wycombe Wanderers after being sidelined with injury since scoring his second goal for the club in the FA Cup first round win against York City a couple of months back. After playing a handful of minutes on Boxing Day, Kudus was introduced with a half hour to go as Wycombe chased Charlton, but they lost 2-1. Who else? Last week, Patrick Kelly started for Doncaster Rovers, but was unable to prevent his side losing 2-0 at runaway leaders Walsall. Kelly also played 73 minutes and set up a good chance for Rovers to equalise, but it wasn't taken. In the National League South, Mason Terry once again produced a fine performance for Hornchurch as they held Averley to a 1-1 draw. In the first half, he made a remarkable double save to keep his side in the game. At 1-1 and deep into stoppage time, Averley were awarded a penalty, presenting them with a golden opportunity to secure 3 points. The ball was struck down the middle with Terry initially diving to the left, but he adjusted superbly to block the shot with a strong right foot. He then sprang back up to put off the rebound, which went over the bar. 20-year-old shot stopper still boasts one of the best goalkeeping records in that division, with 21 goals conceded in 21 games. So well done to him. Now, I forgot Kurt Zouma and Mohamedou Kante. Mohamedou who? Yes, Mohamedou Kante, the player that we bought from second division Paris FC, are all on winter breaks in Spain, Saudi Arabia, and France, respectively. Right. I need a sip of water, and then we'll get into do the match review. So bear with me 1 second. So, we played 2 games last week, didn't we? And the first of those was on Boxing Day against Southampton, a narrow 1-0 win over bottom of the table Southampton. And then, of course, our customary thumping by a bigger team against Liverpool on Sunday, where we lost, as you already know, 5-0. Both performances were pretty dire, but I guess the consolation is we managed to walk away with 3 points at Southampton, which put us on a 4-game unbeaten run. Okay, we all knew it was paper thin. 2 draws, 2 wins. A win over Wolves when we could have either lost or drew that one. A draw against Bournemouth, reasonable. And a draw against Brighton. All these teams had great chances. They could have won those games. But as I always maintain, the teams against us, if they get chances, it's down to them to put them away. If they don't put them away, that's not our problem. And then we met Liverpool, who put their bloody chances away and could have probably beaten us 7 or 8-0 on Sunday. Look, we know that the performances throughout the whole of this season really haven't been great. So coming away with the 3 points against Southampton, I guess, it didn't really give me that much of an assurance that we're going to go into the game against Liverpool to do anything damaging. Look, you know what I'm like. I always try and be positive. I did suggest that maybe we'll come away with a 2-2 draw. And I even said quite boldly on Facebook, we're not going to lose against Liverpool. I'm kind of deluding myself sometimes, to be quite honest with you. I'm sort of wishing, that something like that will turn out. Hasn't done so. I won't lie. When I did the post-match review, as most of you already know and have already talked about, I was angry. I was pretty angry. Not so much because of the defeat, but the manner of the defeat. We had no fight, no conviction, no creativity, no structure, and we seemed to have no plan. Well, we had a plan, but it just didn't work. Lopetegui really, he set us up to defend, and we ended up paying a heavy price. I said in the preview that we didn't need to go gung-ho against the likes of Liverpool, but at least give them something to worry about, at least have an outlet for them to worry about. And he didn't do that, Lopetegui. He tried to defend, and when you try and defend, we learnt this under Moyes. When you try and defend, you're going to get done, especially against a good team. But in essence, it was a stroll in the park for Liverpool. And for the 3rd time in the past 4 meetings against them, in all competitions, they've smashed us by 5 goals. 5-1 at their ground in the League Cup in December 2023, 5-1 again in the same competition at their ground again in September, and 5-0 yesterday in the Premier League. I've been to all of them. 15 goals I've seen smashed past us. It's funny, but the 4th game against them, the 3 out of the 4, we finished with a 2-2 creditable draw in the Premier League back in April. Liverpool must love playing against West Ham United. And I've no doubt that if we beat Aston Villa in the FA Cup, big if, but I've no doubt if we beat Aston Villa in the FA Cup, we're guaranteed to get Liverpool in the next round away. Now, the lineup. It was disappointing. Now, I talked about various options that Lopetegui could have taken. I kind of thought we'd go 5 at the back, but we didn't. We had 5 defenders on the pitch, but we didn't go 5 at the back. All of a sudden, Lopetegui has done this a few times, hasn't he? He did the experiment when we played Chelsea, when he puts Alvarez in as a kind of a makeshift 3rd centre-back, which was absolutely atrocious, didn't work. And then he decided, for his own wisdom, to put Emerson as our attacking left-sided midfielder. Why did he do that? Why did he experiment with Emerson going? And now I look at that team, and when you look at it immediately, you go, wing-back system. Wan-Bissaka, Soufal, Mavropanos, Kilman as the centre, and then Emerson, Wan-Bissaka and Emerson as wing-backs. And then you'd have your Alvarez, Paquetá, Soler in the middle with Kudus and Bone up front. Now, if he set us up like that, maybe, just maybe, we were never going to win this game, but maybe give Liverpool something to be concerned about. And he didn't do that. He put Wan-Bissaka out on the left. All right, I don't mind Wan-Bissaka out on the left. I've often said this season, when he's gone out on the left, he's actually looked all right. Soufal, I love him. He plays with his heart on his sleeve. But the Premier League is no longer for him. So I think that was a weakness. And I get it. I kind of get the understanding of why he put Wan-Bissaka and Emerson out on the left to combat Salah. Well, that didn't work, did it? Because he still managed to score goals against us. So that experiment didn't work. I suggested one of the options that he could, or some of the options that he could have taken, would have been to perhaps play Kudus in the middle, put Somerville out on the left, put Bowen out on the right, and a striker. or Kudus as a false number 9 or something like that. Fill that midfield with a runner, someone that can run at Liverpool. Somerville out on the left side that can run at Liverpool, and then Bowen doing what Bowen does on the right-hand side. He didn't do any of that. So basically we were playing with what? What was it? It was like a 5-4-1 formation, something like that, where Bowen was kind of stranded up front on his own. And then he had Kudus just behind, and then he had packed out, Emerson. Emerson, I think Emerson's been a great player for us since he's been at West Ham, especially, the season when we won the Cup in Europe, etc. Exceptional. But to put him out as by all means, play him as a wing back, but don't all of a sudden play him out as a left-sided attacking midfielder. It didn't work. I didn't get that. And what message does that give to Somerville? What does that say to Crescencio Somerville when you've got players suspended, when you've got players who are injured, and yet Somerville is benched? What message does that give out? We've got a scenario here that we had when Moyes was here with Said Benrahma. We seem to have the same system, the same problem with Lopetegui and Crescencio Somerville. Now, here's the irony. Every time Crescencio Somerville comes on, I actually think he's one of our better players. I actually think he puts effort in, and he can defend. We've seen him do it. We've seen him track back. Imagine if we had Emerson and Crescencio Somerville on the left side, to try and nullify Salah. I think that would have worked better, and then getting the ball out, Somerville can take the ball away from our defense. You can carry the ball. And I do not get why Lopetegui seems to have it in for Crescencio Somerville. I don't understand it. I don't get it. And it's a scenario that we seem to have had, like I said, with Moyes and Benrahma. I don't like it, when you're singling out players like that. And it does feel like he's singling him out. And I don't understand that, because Somerville, every time he's played, he's shown an eagerness, and I know a lot of people will go, well, he's only scored 1 goal and I think he's only made 2 or something like that. Let the boy have a run of games and get the confidence up and see what he can offer, because I think he's got an end product in him. I think he's got pace, he's got skill, and every time he comes on, he seems to sort of bring us alive a little bit. But I'm worried. I'm worried that we found yet another sort of Moyes Benrahma situation with Lopetegui and Somerville. I don't like it, but there you go. Look, it was great that we saw Kilman and Soler. They were fit and available to play. And on balance, if we had gone with 5 at the back, like I said, with Wan-Bissaka and Emerson as wing-backs, that would have made an awful lot more sense. Look, would we have gotten anything out of the game? Probably not. But we might have given Liverpool a bit more of a game of it, rather than sort of conceding space, conceding a lot of the ball. We knew they were going to have a lot of the ball. We didn't have to, give that to them on a plate as well. I don't know. It didn't work. I didn't like it. I felt sorry for Emerson being played in that position. And then, of course, I mentioned earlier in the show about Areola. He comes back in. I mean, he comes in at a time when we're playing the top team who scored the most goals. Look, out of those 5 goals, the one that I think was his fault was the third one. I agree. It was poor. He shouldn't have. He should have been able to save that one. But he pulled off a number of really decent saves to, not make the score into a cricket score. So I think I feel sorry for Areola, because I know damn well that if Fabianski is ready for the game on Saturday, Fabianski will be brought straight back in. And like I asked you guys earlier on, if Fabianski is brought straight back in and we concede 5 against Man City, what are we going to say about Fabianski? Because with the greatest of respect to him, he's been a great servant to West Ham, but goodness me, we need, surely, there's not a lot between Areola and Fabianski. I know Areola's lost a little bit of confidence. And I think the one thing with the goalkeeper, which I said some time ago, is when he got dropped after the Tottenham game, the one thing with a goalkeeper, you drop him, he loses his confidence. Keep him, show faith in him. Lopetegui's an ex-goalie. He must understand that logic. But anyway, I feel sorry for Areola. I think he'll get dropped in the next game. And then we look at some players. Like I said, in my review, when I did the review straight after, I did rant. And it was all about Lopetegui. And I thought it was really awful at the way he set us up, etc., the tactics and so on. And I stick to that. But then we got to look at some of the players themselves. Lucas Paquetá. I mean, he offered very little. He's offered very little in the team for the last year or so. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, he's got the whole thing looming over his head, the FA charges, etc. Then you know what? Just take him out of the team completely, if that's the case. If he's not focused, if he can't focus, then just put him on the bench. Bring him on as an impact sub. And unfortunately, again, Paquetá flatters to deceive, and it's so disappointing because we know what he can offer, and yet he doesn't. And sometimes it feels as if we're playing with 10 men. And Mohamed Kudus, early endeavour, like I said, a lot of people suggested it. First half hour, he looked all right, hit the woodwork a couple of times. He was unlucky. But then the minute Liverpool scored their goal, he seemed to disappear. You know, and that was a shame as well. And some of these players have got to look at themselves. And I know what you're all saying. Oh, they'll be gone. They'll be gone. You know, they're on that pitch. Yes, okay, the tactics aren't great, but do the best that you can. Don't just give in. You know, and sometimes I look at Kudus and I think, you're not tracking back, mate. You know, and ironically, Lopetegui talked about, you know, that he's got to do as much defensively as he's got to do attacking. Now, you look at someone like Salah, he doesn't defend, but he's very effective going forward. And you'd argue maybe that's what we need to do with Kudus. And I get that logic. I do. But unfortunate, well, Bowen does it when he tracks back. He tracks back, and he defends when he needs to. And sometimes we need to have so many of you have said 11 individuals on the pitch. We're not playing as a team. Sometimes you look at Paquetá and the things he's trying to do. He's trying to be Mr. Flash hat, you know, flash in the center of the park. And sometimes it comes off, but most times it doesn't. Kudus doesn't track back. Maybe he's playing individually as well. And maybe we do need these players to start playing as a unit rather than as individuals. Look, again, you know, we're not commanding the midfield. We're conceding too much space, especially against the likes of Liverpool, to allow them to play at their own pace, and they did. No urgency, no solidity, no pace. Everything just seemed to be quite laboured. Like I said, the first half hour, I actually looked at my watch and I was surprised. And I thought, shit, they ain't scored yet. And I fucking spoke too soon because they scored. We seemed to be in the game up to half an hour. And I thought maybe we can get to half time and at 0-0 and see what happens. And then the last 15 minutes, we just seemed to collapse. You know, Dinos Mavropanos said in the pre-match interview that as long as we stuck to the plan, then we stood a chance of coming away with something in this game. Well, what was the plan? Because I'm not so sure. If the plan was just to absorb pressure, then that was a dumb plan. Our tactics were wrong, without a doubt. The one thing that we lacked again was pace. Yet we had pace on the bench with Crescencio Somerville and players like that who've got pace, you know, who could have been used as an outlet. When I did the preview, I talked about we need an outlet against these teams. You know, have someone that's staying further up forward and get the ball to them and let them run at the opposition. Give them something to worry about, you know, rather than us being sort of like cornered in our own half for most of the game. As for Lopetegui, well, I think we heard today that they won't knee jerk just yet. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the game against Man City this coming Saturday, because another poor display and another massive defeat might just well be the final straw. Or if it is the 2 games, I don't know how true that is. He's got another 2 games. I was always told that Man City might be the decider. And now I get it. You know, we've gone through this patch. We've gone through the Liverpool game. Man City game will be 4 days after the transfer window opens. I'm not so sure if they're going to make a move, West Ham United. If we get an absolute pasting from Man City, then quite possibly, a Lopetegui will go. Do I think he'll go? I just don't know, is the honest truth, because you're getting conflicting stories. By Saturday, like I said, the transfer window would have been open for 4 days. And West Ham are going to have to make a decision one way or another as to who's going to be manager, who's going to be head coach of this team, because we need to then sort out our transfer strategy. And we've got to make sure we know who's leading the team in order to get the transfers right. The danger, as I've already said, of another manager, another head coach coming in, he'll have different ideas. He'll have different ways of playing. He'll have different thoughts on players he wants. And the players that are already there may not suit him. Lopetegui's already alluded to that he hasn't got the players that he wants to do play the style of football he wants. No, I don't know. Has he not? Really? Has he not? You got Somerville, who he puts on the bench, so you end up playing Emerson in left side of midfield. Well, you got the player there, mate. You do have Fulkrug. I know I don't rate Fulkrug very much, which is probably why we're looking at getting a player in the transfer window, a striker. But you do have a striker if you want to try and use him. You've got other players that they can play in the position. You wanted 2 players in every position. You've almost got that, but yet you're not using them. So does he have the players he wants? As people said, I think he has got the players he wants. He's just not using them in the right way. So what about the transfer window? What's happening? What's looming? Well, from the rumours that came out last week, it was suggested that Tim Steiden's role is going to change. And he just won't be allowed to fly off to Brazil again and buy whoever he wants, whenever he wants, and whether he fits the team or not. Instead, apparently, he's going to help identify players, then present these as options for a board decision to be made, a final decision. Look, I dare say that whoever may be the head coach will also be part of that decision making. Isn't that the right thing to do? Shouldn't have that been the right thing to do in the first place? I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, that David Moyes, when he did that interview a few weeks ago, talking about, why not have ex-managers be finding transfers, etc., instead of these people that he kind of like, it was a dig at Steiden. Doesn't know the fabric of the club and all that sort of stuff. Don't know what you really need. Don't know what a manager really needs. Instead of a technical director going out and buying your players, why not have ex-managers doing that role? It was a dig at Steiden, definitely. But is there some kind of logic to it? But then I ask myself, why is it that other clubs can get this right? Why is it that the likes of Liverpool and Brighton and Bournemouth and various other teams in the Premier League and across Europe, why is it that they can get it right and we can't? I was asked a question earlier on. Do we have the right director of football? I really don't know, is the honest truth. The fact that he's getting his wings clipped a little bit by being told that you've got to present players to us for us to sign them off and agree means that maybe the confidence in Steiden is going from the board. Is that right? Is that wrong? I don't know. Yes, you've got one argument that suggests that there's too much interference from Sullivan, etc. And you've got the other side of the argument that suggests that maybe Steiden just hasn't quite done it. Just hasn't quite got what he was promising to bring to West Ham United. The pearl diver. Is Guilherme a pearl? Well, if he is, then Lopetegui needs to use him. And look, when he's used him sparingly, he's actually shown something about him. So maybe Lopetegui needs to have the courage of his convictions. And here goes yet another reason why I'm really confused as to whether we get another head coaching if Lopetegui and West Ham get thumped against Man City. Because that new head coach is going to have to come in and agree to, he's going to have to be told, here's our current structure. We've gone out and spent 100-odd million pounds, 150 million pounds on these players. You need to use them. Oh, no, but they're not my team. Well, no, sorry. So that's why I'm really confused as to whether we do go out and get ourselves another head coach. Or do we just limp to the finish line and keep Lopetegui to the end of the season? It will not surprise me if Lopetegui stays until the end of the season. But it will also not surprise me if at the end of the season they say, thank you very much, on you go. That won't surprise me. But it will also not surprise me if we do get thumped against Man City, that he'll be given his marching orders. But if he's given his marching orders, we've got to get the right sort of head coach, even if it is for the interim, that's going to agree to use the squad we have. Because I think we will get a player, maybe 2, definitely 1, which will be a striker. But that's probably all we're going to add to this current squad. So it's going to be interesting to see who has the final say. It seems that Steiden's wings have been clipped, and he probably doesn't have the final say on who we bring in. Now, let's talk about players leaving. Andy Irving, again, this is a story that happens back in the summer. My Wi-Fi is going again. This is a story that happened back in the summer where there was apparent interest from Celtic, and now this has reared its head again. I don't know. To be fair, he's not getting an awful lot of game time, so perhaps there is an element of truth in letting Andy Irving go. Now, interestingly, I think Guido Rodriguez is going to go. So if Guido Rodriguez goes, I would keep Irving, to be honest with you. I think he'll make a half-decent backup for Alvarez when we need him. So out of the two, Rodriguez or Irving, I'd rather see Rodriguez go, to be honest with you. The Premier League is not for him. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. And then we've just spoken about him. Luis Guilherme, apparent talk about him going, clubs in Brazil wanting to loan him. We're not going to loan. I doubt very much we'll loan him. If we're going to let him go, we're going to let him go for a price so that we can raise funds in order to buy players. You know that we need to raise money in order to spend it. So if a club is interested in Guilherme in Brazil, they're going to have to pay the going rate. We're going to want to get at least 20 million back, and we're not going to get 20 million back for Guilherme. So I don't think Guilherme is going to go anywhere, to be honest with you. But there is a possibility of making money in this transfer window, and that is to make Naifa Gerd's loan spell to Real Sociedad permanent. That is a possibility. That is a distinct possibility that Naifa Gerd may be sold in this January transfer window in order to raise funds to go out and spend in this window. So look out for that. That is quite possibly something that could happen. So who are we going to spend the money on? Yes, we've heard about the Middlesbrough player. We've heard about the Brazilian striker that I spoke about a few weeks ago, Igor Jesus, etc. But the latest player that's been linked to us is another old name that we've been linked to in the past, is Kolo Muani. Randall Kolo Muani is 26 years of age. He moved from Eintracht Frankfurt to... This is how you do business, people. Listen to this. He moved from Eintracht Frankfurt to PSG in the summer of 2023 for a fee of 95 million euros. Guess how much Eintracht Frankfurt paid for him? Nothing. He went on a free from Nantes to Frankfurt. Within a year, this is how you do business. Within a year, Frankfurt, who they got the player on a free, sold him to PSG for 95 million smackaroos. That's how you do business. When he was at Frankfurt, he made 50 appearances, scoring 26 goals with 17 assists. So you can see why PSG were keen to sign him. Like I said, we had an interest in him whilst he was still at the French club Nantes, where he developed through the youth system. He made 87 appearances for Nantes, scoring 23 goals with 16 assists. As I've said, he moved to Frankfurt on a free in 2022. So within a year, Frankfurt, that German club, made 95 million euros profits. Since being at PSG, he's made 54 appearances, scoring 11 goals with 7 assists. And this season, he's finding game time somewhat challenging. His current value is rumoured to be just a mere 30 million euros. Wow. If that's true, that's a massive loss. So we're not the only club that loses money on transfers. Other clubs do it as well. So it's a possibility. My understanding is there's a possibility that we may go in for a loan to buy deal. Because I think West Ham, as other people have alluded to, do we want to be spending money in this transfer window? Maybe. Now, if we get him in on loan with an option to buy, that kind of makes sense. To be honest with you, we can see what he's like, and then we have an option to maybe buy him at the end of the season. One of the things is will he suit our style of play? One thing that we all know we're missing is a pacey striker, and he's got an abundance of it. He's a versatile player too, where he can play anywhere across the front line, but preferably as a striker. But he can also play the flanks as well. What's interesting about him is that with Kudus almost certain to leave in the summer, and with the likes of Fulkrug simply not fitting in, as well as Antonio probably never likely to return to senior team football, Kolo Muani could be a decent fit for the way we play our football at West Ham United. Certainly for the remainder of this season, with the likes of Bowen, Kudus and even Somerville supporting him, he can add much needed pace to our front line. What's also interesting about him is that even if we do not keep Lopetegui as our future head coach, a player like Kolo Muani would suit most coaches that may take over because of the fact that he's a versatile forward. He's got pace and abundance. He's not at a bad age, 26. You know, he hasn't done it at PSG, but how many players go to big clubs and they get lost in that system? Whereas if they'd stayed, you know, if he'd stayed at Frankfurt or if he'd stayed at Nantes, he might have been a big name, you know. And a lot of players get sort of taken in by the money, etc., playing for a big club, but it doesn't always work out. So that's our latest rumor, that Kolo Muani is a player that we could look at bringing in on loan. Now, I know there's a guy, Brats Mendez, I can't remember his name. I talked about him last week, from, is it Sociedad he plays for? A Spanish club. There's talk about bringing him in from the Spanish league. He's an attacking midfielder. I don't know that we need an attacking midfielder at the moment. We need a box-to-box. And there's no names at this moment in time that have been suggested as players who are box-to-box midfielders coming in. There's also talk about Tomori coming in from AC Milan, ex-Chelsea player. But again, that's all talk. And that was all talk again last summer as well, when we were linked to him too. So there's your update. Right. What about your comments? See what we got. Daniel, supporters feel we've got no voice yet. All fans games have to do is chant out one word, Sullivan, when we're losing badly. Question, supporters feel we have no voice yet. All fans at games have to do is chant one word, Sullivan, when we're losing badly in a game. Oh, so you mean we start chanting Sullivan to get all the fans together? Yeah, possible. Gary, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Nick, Wan-Bissaka was the real mystery. What position was he actually playing? He looked confused. And best attacker was Kudus on the right in the first half. Floppy fixed that in the second half. Yeah, he moved Kudus to the left. Why muck around? Don't turn around and say you've got players. You don't have the players you need to play your system and then play them in the wrong bloody positions. I agree with Nick on that. Trudge, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Chinese Whispers, I reckon, didn't form a dossier 6 months in advance. He was dossing for 6 months. Whatever dossier, maybe he lost it in the fire. Maybe his dog ate it. I don't know. But he certainly ain't been using it. Terry, just join the conversation. But has anyone mentioned Jared's injury? Because if it's serious, that could get a lot worse for us. We don't know at this moment in time, Terry. It was his ankle. If he's turned it, it may be swollen. They might have to maybe wait till tomorrow for the swelling to go down before they take an X-ray. If it's swollen, and I'm not saying it is, if it is swollen, then my guess is he may not make it for the game on Saturday. Trudge. Also, his English seems to be getting worse somehow. He seems nervous, doesn't he, Lopetegui? Without a doubt. Daniela. Our owners are not going anywhere in the short term unless they get an offer they can't turn down. And I can't see that happening. So this owner out is a waste of time. I agree with that, you know, and even if they do get an offer, perhaps they still may not go. Andrew, Ward-Prowse, one of the most average players I've seen for a long time, was invisible most games I've watched him. Who else have we got? Gary, I have to say, I am very patient and forgiving person, but this sloppy saga is giving me a headache. They need to quit with this limbo crap. If they've got a replacement lined up, sack him. Fair play. Pierino, good evening to you. Man, it was a match review-ish. It certainly wasn't like the one I did last night. I yet again, if anyone watched that last night, I apologize for the language. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got? Neil, get that rum down my neck. I had quite a lot yesterday, a little bit too much, to be quite honest with you. I'm not going to tell you what I did after the game. You'll laugh. Well, no, you won't laugh. You'll be like, what? Nothing silly. Well, anyway. I'll crack on, shall I? Neil, match review. Oh, my God. I blocked that game out of my mind. Anyone got the Samaritans number? True culture. Can say the France national player seems to never stop running when he plays. Not him. This was another Kante. A very different Kante. Nick, I take relegation as long as we can take Spurs and Man United with us. I'm so bored being whipped in the Premier League. Imagine if we start getting whipped in the Championship too. Martin, between Fulham and Palace, we'll win one of those games, but we all know it's just extending Lopetegui's stay. You know, half of me, I'll be really, really honest, half of me is kind of saying, let's limp to the end of this season and then sort things out in the summer. I just don't know what will happen if we do get it. I mean, We might get that bounce back with a new manager, etc. But will it be right for the long term? That's the thing that worries me, to be honest. Would it be right for the long term? And I just don't know, is my honest answer. I just don't know. John, sending Loney Soler to face the camera to the post-match interview was pretty poor. It was. Yeah, I agree with that. I haven't seen it, but I know he did the post-match interview. Pirino. It was very lame. Can you blame Locke for the amount of effort the players put in? Well, this is it, the players have got as much to blame for their lack of effort as Lopetegui has for the tactics. Jack, Paul had too many pacey players who time their runs perfectly. Plus, they have several players that can pick a pass. There you go. Let's scroll down. Who else we got? Clive, good evening. Green Street, Greg, good evening to you. Have it right. The players have the biggest influence on the performance. Some of them didn't play well, did they? That is true. How far behind am I? Not bad. Trodge, it's so easy to get in the pocket between our midfield and defence. Not sure our centre-backs are as bad as they look. Now, here's the irony, though, Trodge. Because for the last few games, we seem to have sorted that out. It seemed like our defence and midfield were a lot closer together. And yet, against a team like Liverpool, there was a cavern between. There was such a massive space between us again. Was that down to Liverpool pulling our players wide? Could be. Steve, surrendering before the game started was our mistake. Attack is the best form of defence. Try to win the game. Nando, still, you go through our squad. It's a bloody strong one, and a shame it's not being utilised as its strength. I agree with that. I agree. Andrew, we continue to get humped because our predecessor and the new incumbent played cowardly football against all teams. Yeah, good point. John, Emerson got pushed out of position to accommodate Slow, as you like, Soufal. I didn't agree with Soufal being picked. I really didn't, to be honest with you. I was like, why? Why have we done that? But my thinking initially when I saw the lineup was, when I saw the team news, was, well, Wan-Bissaka's going to play wing-back with Soufal behind him. That's what I was thinking. And then Wan-Bissaka was on the left. Terry, not delusional, mate. It's hope. Never give up hope. It's all we've got right now. Montana, Stell, what has Loppy done to deserve such blind loyalty from Pygmy? You tell me, maybe, as people have said, he doesn't want to be proved wrong. Just Mac. Knowing Sully, he put a clause in Lopetegui and Moyes' contracts to play the way he wants to play. Dwarf always thinks he knows, but I'm not so sure about that. He's interfering, but I don't think he's that interfering. Toha, KWP played well in the last two games on the left. I thought we were looking at him for right back. Could be a good option. I think he played really well against us. Yeah. Walker Peters, I like what I saw. Jack, Salah picked up the ball 15 yards inside his own half, drive it forward 50, 60 yards without a challenge. And this is the problem. We were allowing them to play their game. Who else have we got? Darren. Formation was a joke. Liverpool would not have an easier 3 points. I said the same thing. Do forgive me. I can't put up all your comments, and I try and do as many as I can, I promise. Trodge, I like Somerville, gets people booked and tries. Some are comparing him to Ben Rama. I don't get it. I think he's got I like him, and Somerville has demonstrated that he doesn't mind getting into a challenge. It's only because he plays in the same position that people are going, oh, another Ben Rama. I think he's got quite a bit to at him. It's so baffling to even think of it. I'm convinced Pygmy is a Spuds fan. What does he see that we don't? Let's scroll down. True culture. Bowen doesn't fully understand how to play centre forward, maybe because he's a winger. Personally, I like Bowen. I keep referring to last season when we had Kudus on the right and we had Bowen mainly in the middle and they kept interchanging and all that sort of stuff. Bowen scored 20 goals last season in all competitions, more over 20 goals. And he played quite a bit of that up front. I like Bowen. I think he's all right. He's not the answer, but whilst we don't have, I don't think Fulkrug's the answer. I don't think Ings is the answer. And if I had a choice between Bowen, Ings, and Fulkrug, I'd go for Bowen every day of the week. Gaza, going by the West Ham channels, and this one, I would say 100% want Loppy gone and have had enough, not even angry anymore, which is worse. I don't think he's right. My worry is he right to go now? Or is it better to let him go at the end of the season? I worry about bringing in an interim. What's going to happen with the squad? How is he going to manage the squad, etc.? If we bring in an interim, it's got to be on the proviso that he's got to use the squad he's got, with maybe, like I said, one addition in terms of that being a striker. Darren, our brightest spark is Somerville. Paul, Somerville should start. Somerville should start, Sam. Agreed. Nick, all prima donnas will be gone. Youth players will definitely get a chance. Won't happen, but probably the only way I'd get my season ticket back. What if we get relegated? I'd worry, Nick. I really would. I'd worry that we would come back up again straight away. And that's the thing that I worry about, to be honest. Frog, Bowen's good, but wouldn't pass a far, even if asked nicely. Bowen's good, wouldn't pass asked nicely. Trodge, he's still let the midfielder walk past him for the first goal, though. Who? You need to tell me who. Let's scroll down. Do forgive me. I'm trying to catch up, and I know I'm quite a bit behind, so forgive me. Sam, Areola has to start. I CBA with this shit, man. Look, Areola's my choice, but I know he's not a lot of other people's choices. Moyes loved Areola. Well, it took him a long time to love Areola. Bill, in the club's recent financial results, the club boasts the highest number of season ticket renewals in London, one of the highest in the league. That's because we've got an awful lot of season ticket holders that aren't West Ham fans. You know, like I said, you buy the cheap seats. I don't know how much they are now, but you buy the cheap seats and you go and watch half a dozen games at the London Stadium. You go and watch the Arsenal, the Liverpool, the Man United, the Chelsea, etc. And you get your money's worth, don't you? Montana. Howard, let's hope these quotes from ITKs are just rumours. What are we waiting for to kick the Spanish Abraham Grant out? What did Howard say? Where's Howard's comment? I can't see it. So I don't know what's going on in terms of what's happening. Maybe, like I said earlier in the show, just maybe we'll see what happens in the game against Man City. And it can go either way. If we get thumped, I can see him being sacked. If we get thumped, the board may go, right, we'll just see how it goes for the next few games. But like I say, something's got to happen soon. They're going to have to make a decision one way or another because the transfer window would be open and we need to do business in the transfer window. And they're going to have to make a decision, either keep him, stick with him, or let him go. Andrew. I hear you, Nick, but getting relegated isn't going to help us, in my opinion. We could easily spiral having on our best prospect cherry pick if we get stuck down there. That would be my worry as well. Trodge, Areola was bottom on stats for keepers in Europe prior to being dropped, was a Reddit graphic of them all. I didn't see that. I didn't know that. Montana. Lopi has turned Areola into Adrian. He's unrecognizable. He looks so shaky since it. Do you know what? He does look quite shaky. And I don't understand why. Schizo. Paquetá and Kudus doing the sequence of short passing before being dispossessed was infuriating. Agreed. Brad. Still, as a rule, I agree with 90% of what you say, but Areola isn't a good keeper, and despite being 39, Fabianski is the better option. It's fair. You know, some people do prefer Fabianski. For me, to be honest, I don't know. Montana, I prefer Areola. I would take McKenna, even if Ipswich get relegated. Maybe. I don't know. I'd rather take Carrick, if that's the case, to be quite honest with you. Or Scott Parker, who's doing exceptionally well with Burnley. Terry, gaps all over the park, not playing as a cohesive unit, and that's down to coaching. Good point. Yeah. Let's scroll down. Montana, I would also take Carrick. Give me Gary O'Neill. We shall play better this way than Gary O'Neill. Would you take him as an interim? Maybe. I don't know. Gennaro. Areola is our best keeper, in my opinion. Maybe a spell on the bench will liven up Paquetá and Kudus because neither look like they're interested at the moment. Just Mac, I had a season ticket in 2003-4. What an entertaining season. The final in Cardiff was arse. Schizo. Trodge, I wouldn't mind if they were moving forward, but they just stopped momentum dead again. Glenn, if we go down, we won't be back for years under the stewardship of this mighty midget. So let's not go down that path. I would fear going down. Gary, X said if we get thrashed by City and Villa knocks us out of the cup, then Loppy might get the sack. Might. No one knows. And that is the honest truth. No one knows. Right, what have I got? Still 250 watching. If you've yet to hit that subscribe button, I don't know what you're waiting for, because if you've been watching all this time, 251. So please do hit the subscribe button. And also, please hit the like button as well. Thank you. Anthony, come on, Montana, you must be joking. O'Neill, what's he done managerial-wise? Would you take O'Neill as an interim for the end of the season? I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I'm so confused about what's going to happen with our head coach. I really am. Glenn. If City and Billy beat us, Sullivan will wheel out he's got 3 games. He's got to do it. It'll be still early in the transfer window, and he will have to do. If we get thumped by both those teams, he will have to make a decision, because we don't want to go through the transfer window not doing any business because we can't decide who's going to be the head coach of the club. Let's scroll down. Green Street Greg. There'll be no money in January. They won't let Blinky influencer spend. Mid-table nonsense is enough for the board. Well, there will be money if we sell. Jack. Lopetegui got a 16 million euro payoff from Real Madrid when they sacked him. He seems to be making a lot of money by failing. Great job, innit? Great job being a Premier League manager, or being a manager of a football club. Ray, good evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Trodge. Fulkrug is more of Sheringham. I think most of us expected him to be more physical in the air. You got to cross it to him. In all fairness to him, you got to cross it to him for him to be better in the air. Barry. Tim is saying... Oh, dear. Who else have we got? Marky Boy. We've had this before with Husler. Yes, we have. Let's remember, apart from Roberto, how many of his signings ended up doing okay for us? No great shakes. It's true. It's true. Very, very true. Carl. Sullivan and Loppy can leave together. Let's go spend some more money in players for a coach we're supposed to be sacking. That makes right sense. That Sullivan and Loppy can leave together. Let's go spend more money in players for a coach we're supposed to be sacking. That makes sense. Well, we don't know. This is the thing. We don't know if Lopetegui is going to stay or not. And, you know, the reason why I think we're making Soler, or we're looking at possibly making Soler a permanent, is to free up a loan space. I think we might look for the loan market in January. Will we buy anyone? I don't think we will. Even if we generate money, I'm not so sure we will. But I certainly think we'll go and get a couple of, at least another loan player in. Paul. Guilherme should have started yesterday. Not necessarily started, but I'm glad he came on. And I'm glad he showed what he's capable of doing. Trodge. He's still got a goal, an assist, and a few starts. Isn't match fit. Give one hell of an interview. Who Soler are you talking about? Marky Boy. Still, it starts at the top. As long as Sullivan owns us, it will always be the same. Kimbo. How far behind am I? Not far. Kimbo, we need new players, new management, new owners. The only thing worth keeping is our loyal supporters. True. Gaz, you pulled on my heartstrings today, Nick, with your video. It's so true how much identity we have lost. True culture. Question. How do you think West Ham should have set up yesterday to play Liverpool, including players? And don't you think the game would have turned? And how do you think the game would have turned out? Do I still have my slides? Let's see if I have. Let me see. Team selections. Let me see if it's that one. Right. So this is what these were my lineups against Liverpool. Now, if we were going to play 4 at the back, then keep the 4 at the back. You know, Todibo starting, Wan-Bissaka on the right, Emerson on the left, with Alvarez and Paquetá in the middle. And I wanted to see, you know, if we were going to have Fulkrug, then give Fulkrug support by having someone like Kudus in the middle. And I think that would have worked. With Somerville on the left, Bone on the right. I think that, look, we may not have won the game, but that might have taken the game to Liverpool. Another option I had, you know, was Soufal, Emerson, with Wan-Bissaka. Here's a weird logic. Wan-Bissaka in the middle as a sort of almost a holding midfielder. Again, with Kudus, Somerville and Bowen in that lineup. And then if we were going to play 5 at the back, then I would have gone with Wan-Bissaka, Todibo, Mavropanos, maybe Creswell, and Emerson as a wing-back, Alvarez and Paquetá in the middle. But again, that front 3. Because I think that front 3, for the time being, could be something that we could do well with. Having Kudus on the right, Somerville on the left. all of these lineups were to include Somerville in the lineup. That's what I would have done. Jack, the Latin element type players in our squad are not very impressive at the moment, and that includes Lopetegui too. Montana, we've wasted 2 seasons dithering because of a clueless owner and washed out managers. But this is the point I made earlier. If we do get the next head coach we get at West Ham United, has got to be someone that's got to be for the long term. We can't keep putting a sticky plaster over West Ham. Just like we did, when we got Pellegrini in, that was like meant to be, he's coming in, he's going to be a sensation. And that didn't work out. We got a sticky plaster in David Moyes. All right, he worked well, etc. And then Moyes was given these contracts of, a couple of years, etc. And so Moyes was always in a way on the back foot. I'm not trying to protect Moyes, but he couldn't think forward, and ironically, the more he got into the managing of West Ham, the more regressive he became, because when he took over for the second time, we were doing actually quite well, but he regressed, and he wasn't bringing young players in, and it was time for Moyes to go, and what I wanted after Moyes was a manager that was going to come in, head coach or whatever, and this is where I thought the whole Steiden thing was included. Technical director, head coach, looking at a 5-year. Steiden talked about a 5-year project, but it's not working out that way, because Lopetegui was given a 2-year contract, which means that the board are not thinking long-term. They're just thinking for the here and now. What I want to see, the next head coach has got to be a long-term project. That's why I'm really, really confused as to whether we bring in a head coach now or bring in a head coach in the summer, because there'll be more options in the summer to bring the right type of head coach in for the long term. Another sticky plaster now, I just don't know if it will work. Potter coming in for what, 6 months? And then he'll turn around and say, right, I've done well, I want a long-term deal. Is Potter the long term? I'm not so sure, to be honest with you. So what I want to see, the next head coach has got to be someone that's looking at the long term, a 4 or 5 year project. Maybe Carrick is the right person, but Carrick won't be available until the summer. So what do we do now? That's why I'm really baffled as to whether we stick with Lopetegui or not. If we stick with him, I don't think we'll go down. But if we stick with him, it'll be turgid until the summer, and then go out and get Carrick or someone like that and go, right, you're getting a 4 or 5 year deal. This is going to be the long term. You're going to use the youth. You're going to use, players, etc. And let's move West Ham forward as a unit. If we bring in another sticking plaster, I just don't know. We'll lose that other opportunity yet again to go for the long term. Who else have we got? Hammerit. As someone said earlier, bringing in any new players with the team being so low may not be successful. I don't know. I don't agree with that. You could bring in a player, the right player, someone with pace, but could jet up the whole squad. Could give us that boost that we need. Just Mac, if we need pace, Guilherme will fit perfect. Good point. Let's face it, everyone who has played up front so far hasn't done anything, nothing to lose. Yeah, fair play. Good shout. Gennaro, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought that Steiden was in charge of all footballing matters, including tactics, formations. Apparently, that's why Moyes didn't sign the contract. No, Moyes didn't sign the contract because he was told he was no longer going to be managing transfers, and he didn't want that. And that's why he came out with the comments that he did in that podcast that he did recently. Moyes was told, all you're going to do is just coach the players. But in terms of transfers, that's in the hands of time. That's why he didn't. Now, a technical director or a director of football at most clubs would absolutely correctly, as you said, will be looking at all football matters. We've been told directors of football not only look over the senior squad, but also the academy, even the women's football team, and get them all, the whole club, to play in a certain style of football. So we've got a certain ethos running through the whole of the club. And that's what we thought Steiden was coming in to do. I don't even know if Steiden can do that. to be quite honest with you, because since Stein start and since things went wrong in the summer transfer window, I did a few shows some time ago, questioning Steiden and asking myself, is he the, I was asked the question earlier, is he the right director of football? Not so sure. It looks as if Steiden is the glory boy, wanting to sort of be there in the jet plane with the new players, but I don't know if he's got a strategy. And when I've looked into the successes at Leverkusen that he was, apparently sort of responsible for, you then find out one of the reasons why Steiden left Leverkusen was because he was overlooked for promotion. He was overlooked for the sporting director role that went to someone who was a scout. And I don't know if he was working under Steiden, but certainly he wasn't above Steiden. Then maybe they were on the same level. And when the sporting director role became available, Steiden was overlooked. That pissed him off. That's why, I don't know if you know this, but that's why he left Leverkusen. And so the success story at Leverkusen doesn't seem to have been Steiden. That's really disappointing, and that means I ask myself, does he actually have the skill to actually oversee the tactics, the formations, etc.? I'm not so sure he does. Steve, cheer up. Me and the wife visited Middlesbrough the other day when we saw a stunning girl walking towards us with a sash across her chest, stating Miss Borough. We looked at each other and said, "Why didn't you what, Steve?" Fact it. Mbappe could join West Ham, wouldn't make a jot of difference. Floppy doesn't know how to set up a team. Montana, Carrick would motivate the team and play to our strengths, not what we're seeing right now. Jack, Lopetegui reminds me of the film Persian Letters. Someone has taught him to speak gibberish rather than English. Carl, also, if we got relegated, at least the youth would get a chance. The owners would have no choice but to rebuild. Oh, let's not talk about relegation anymore. Brian, evening Stel from the States. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. Loppy has made such a mess of this squad. I find it hard to criticize any of these players for their performances. They're not motivated and so frustrated. I get that point. I do get that point. But at the same time, you go out on that pitch and you should be playing for the shirt. And some of our players are not. Montana, invite Rashane from Athletic. He seems very critical of Loppy. I've been trying. I've been speaking to him and I keep getting an answer and then he goes quiet for a few weeks again. So I need to try and get back to him because I've asked him. I've invited him. He said yes in principle, but that was about a month ago. I am trying to get him on. Trodge, what was going on with Emerson and Wan-Bissaka, both on the left side, but neither doing crap to stop Salah? That's probably why they were put on the left side. Gennaro, if Slab was willing to come back until the end of the season, I don't see the downside. Yeah, maybe. Marky boy. Salah got more space when we went 5 at the back, 5 defenders, and no one picked him up. Pierino. Sullivan don't want us to go down. No way. That's a massive hit on investment. He will not allow that. That I do totally agree with. Gazhammer. High Stock, don't agree. Our midfield and defence are terrible. Not even a championship side. They are terrible at the moment. I don't disagree with that. Trodge, Liverpool defenders were clever. When Somerville or Bone went to cross, they got pushed off balance. Yeah, they do all those little niggly. They get away with it. Arsenal do the same thing. Steve, good evening, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Darren, anyone not pressed the like? Well, I'd be disappointed. 262 watching. And if you've yet to press that like button, you've got to do it now. Darren told you to do so. And someone else is going to tell you to subscribe in a minute as well. So become a subscriber and hit the like button as well. Howard, what has it been tonight? Guys, Clive is in. Yeah. Jugged hair on bed or wilted, Calabroso, Nero, and what are you locked on about? Brian, that's the answer. Letting Bonin could have switched off the right to the middle. Hard for teams to handle, just like last year. Switch off or switch on, did you mean? Nando, great show. Happy New Year to you as well. And thank you for joining. Thank you for commenting. Really much appreciated, mate. Thank you. And Happy New Year to you too. Mr. Steady Hands, awful performance with Ludo there too. We didn't put a fight in at all. I agree. We didn't. Richard, you can't give Loppy or Stein a penny to spend. They will just waste it. That's probably why we've now got the board signing everything off. Montana. Potts has been playing very consistently. It will be massive for us when we get a competent manager like Carrick. I like Potts. and I'm surprised that we didn't keep him for this season. Montana again. I actually found out last week Bilic gave Declan his debut. Pellegrini did. Yet Moyes wanted to take the credit. Pellegrini did. I'm sure it was Pellegrini that gave Declan his debut. I'm going to look that up now. Yeah, I'm going to look that up. Brian, I would love to sit in on the board meeting to hear how the reasoning and decisions are being made right now. It truly baffles me. Marky boy, how about selling Kudus for cash plus Grealish? Interesting. I have to think about that. Neil, blinking and munching HH. No wonder he's no time for tactics. Montana, Daniela. Even Nuno got sacked by the Spuds and his Saudi club, yet look what he's doing with Forest. I would not judge so fast. Frog, what a life. Millions banked for being bad at your job. I wish that happened to all of us, eh? 6 to 9. Danny, good evening, mate. We disproportionately call for ex-West Ham players to manage. Genuine question. What do those who call for this think is so beneficial? No room for sentiment in football. Apparently, it's getting to connected back. You know, they understand the ethos of the club and all that. I get it. I don't necessarily think it's important to have a link to the club. You just as long as you're good at your job. You know, whether you're a previous player, past manager, or whatever, just be good at your job. Simple as that. Graham. Stel, a young Brazilian came on, showed bags of pace, almost scored, so he absolutely doesn't fit Blinky's game plan. Good point. Cockney. Evening to you, mate. I hope you're well. Thank you for joining. Potter along with Ashworth, with Mr. Scarf leaving. I don't like Potter. I don't know why. I just don't think Potter's right for us. I really, really don't. Ashworth instead of Scarfy. Yeah. Maltese Hammer. Don't know if this has been said yet, but David Moyes has been awarded an OBE by the King. Has he? He hasn't, has he? Has he? I don't know if you're winding me up or not. Frog, management position has been linked with that bloke that runs a chippy down the road. Nice bloke. Good evening, Leon. I hope you're well, mate. Thank you for joining. Nick's trouble is still managers aren't for the long haul anymore. Average lifespan is 2 years. If they're shit, they get sacked. If they're good, they get poached. Good point. But if we do get someone like Carrick in, a young manager, and say to him, you've got a 4-year project, 5-year project, just maybe, you know, they'll go, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. But I make you right. Yeah, agree. Gone are the days. I mean, what? Pep Guardiola, how long's he been in Man City? You know, and the likes of Sir Alex Ferguson and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, you're right. There are certain managers that will only be, certain managers will look at West Ham just like certain players and go, stepping stone. I'll get you to a certain point and then I'm off ski. Anthos, major mistake from Moyes, flogging 13 players to the ground. I totally agree. Here's the massive irony with David Moyes. He could have easily kept his job. If he'd have not been so stubborn, you know, and gone for additional players in the January transfer window, even a couple of loans, etc., he could have easily kept his job after this at the end of last season. Easily. Kimbo, we've got to gamble on an up-and-coming manager, not the same old faces that are already being sacked. Exactly. That I agree with. That's why I'm talking about a 4-year contract, you know, 4 or 5-year contract. But then we, as fans, are going to have to give them time, because if it doesn't go well, we're going to have to be patient. And we are losing our patience a little bit as a fan base. Hammer it. Carrick, West Ham background, gets the club. Players will like him. Fans will give him time. Question mark. Young and fresh ideas, not like the old has-beens we've been putting up with because they have Premier League experience. I agree. But I don't know if we will give a young manager time. I don't know. Green Street Greg, it's all a bit romantic to think ex-players are suddenly going to be great managers when they're when they're crap in the current jobs. Players are not like the old West Ham type, battlers like we used to have. Yeah, good point. I don't mind Carrick. I don't mind. Who else did I say earlier on that's managing Burnley at the moment? It's got name's gone. You tell me his name. They're currently what, second in the league, etc., in the Championship. Marky boy. I'm happy to wait for the summer when there'll be more choice. However, there's no confidence Sullivan will get it right. That's a really good point. KJ, if Potter proves he's good enough over 6 months, then he gets the job. What more can we want? It's about the longevity. It's about using the academy players. I don't know. I need to look back on his Brighton days, whether he used academy players. He didn't have a say in transfers, Potter, at Brighton. They were all bought for him. There's a system at Brighton about the players that they buy. They fit into an ethos. They fit into a system. And all Potter had to do was just go and coach the players. Now, that's all we need now, apparently, with Steiden in. I think Steiden has messed up, to be honest with you. I really do. Marky boy, Sully would never let Steiden have that much responsibility. Sully's a narcissist, gaslighting. But there you go. He did have the responsibility. He was out in Brazil. He brought someone back. May not have been the right person he brought back. At the end of the transfer window, he brought in a 31-year-old injury-prone striker. Sullivan, I'm not a Sullivan fan, but Sullivan didn't go out and say to him, go and get me that striker that's really injured all the time, please, because that's what we like here at West Ham United. Usual. She was swimming on holiday with her children, got hit by a speedboat. Who did? John, when we get rid of Lopetegui, you can get rid of Steinen as well. Both crap. There you go. I'm not enamored by Steiden. He's got a lot to do in this January window to prove to me that he's the right person. Nil. She said, to kiss and something. Who are you talking about? Marky boy, Stel, as an ex-player, it's your duty to always give 100% irrespective of your feelings towards the coach. I agree. I absolutely agree. Anthony, Stel, you can't get away from the truth. Relegation is a fact. Oh, of course, it's a possibility, but I just don't think we will go down. How far behind am I now? I'm nearly there. Gennaro, thanks for clearing up the Moyes contract saga. I haven't watched any podcasts he's been on since he left the club. Trudge, Cotty, but he did twist it. I'll go back to that. Gennaro, he did twist it when he was on the podcast. He did say, I was offered this contract and then it was taken away from me. It wasn't then just taken away from him. That contract was on the table for something like 2 or 3 months because he was offered it around about this time after we beat Arsenal 2-0 away. He was offered contract and he still kept, and because it was on offer, he didn't like what was on offer. I think Moyes tried to play a game, and it backfired on him. I think Moyes went, I don't like the offer. I'm going to think about it. And then he went off going, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to do really well. And then you've got no choice but to offer me the contract that I want. And then, of course, the second half of the season was an absolute disaster. And there went the contract. And West Ham had to then decide, we need to move on. You've not said yes to it. We need to go and find ourselves another head coach. Trudge, Coddy always having a rant. He seems quite bitter. He's unable to get a job at West Ham. Anyone know why? You've answered that yourself, Trudge. Exactly that. Have a good 2025. You as well, mate. Thank you for joining. Always a pleasure. Thank you for commenting and being part of the show. Much appreciated. Gennaro, I get what you're saying about the sticking plaster, but who's to say that Sullivan will get it right next time? His track record doesn't inspire confidence. I agree. Anthony, you're right, Stel. Pellegrini, I thought he did. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got? Marky boy. Why has Kevin Keane never been considered? Well, he was standing head coach twice. Look at the history. I learned that from Nigel. I wouldn't have known that. Been a coach under some decent managers. Coached the youth as well. Who else have we got? Eltel. David Moyes. Obi and Scott. Well done to you, mate. Wow. Juha. Fans will turn on every manager we get in the first 6 months. That's my worry about, interim managers. Joan. Moyes has been awarded OBE. It's true. Well. OBE for being unemployed. I mean, congrats, really. Congrats. Well, fair play to him. Juha. Forest fans wanted Nuno sacked at the end of last season. Look what he's did with time. He was the worst and now he's the best. Graham. Thanks for the entertainment. Stel, you're giving us a great year. Thank you, mate. Always a pleasure. I hope you don't get snowed in there in Canada. And take it easy, mate. Much appreciated. Who else have we got? Montana. Imagine United dropping to the championship and Bruno having a whinge every tackle against him. Robert, get Ange when Spurs fire him. Great show. Thank you very much, mate. And much appreciated. Would you have Postecoglou? Would you take Postecoglou? It'd be bloody interesting, wouldn't it? It would be bloody interesting. Neil, I hate going out New Year's Eve to many cretins. I hate going out New Year's Eve. Too many cretins who can't hold their drink. Nice, warm, comfy chair. Nice glass of whiskey and a dog by my side. We've been invited next door. I mean, honestly, I mean, it was like, what a touch. Next door neighbor, she's a great cook. You know, there'll be loads of food, loads of drink, and all that. And all I've got to do is just make my way back, you know, about 20 yards, 20 paces, should I say, to my front door. Brian, holy shit, I will educate myself on that award, but it sounds very big. Why would Moyes get that? European champion, of course. Why else? Victor, how are you, mates? Carrick will not be the next manager. Sullivan only picks tried and trusted managers, never younger managers. Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. Nick, imagine the arrogance in post-match presses now with letters after his name. Nick, you got to do a show and congratulate. I know you won't, but I mean, Green Street, chopped up still hit that. Thank you, mate. Happy New Year to you as well, mate. Thank you very much. Just Mac, great content is Happy New Year to you as well, mate. Thank you very much indeed. Let's scroll down. Who else have we got? How far am I? I'm not far. God, we made it. Jack, if Forest go on a four-match losing streak, there'll be shouts for Nuno out. Have we all become that sort of fickle as fans? Joan, Brian, I reckon it's the length of service, one thing in the Premier League. Yeah, and a European winner. David Moyes, OBE. I mean, what? I know Nick's happy. He's absolutely delighted. I know he is. I have more respect for people that turn those titles down. KJ, don't get the pot of dislike. If he does well over 6 months offered, why we would not go with him still? Why are you not happy? There's something about him that isn't right. And when I look at his record, okay, think about it in this way. Since Potter left Brighton, it's not that they've gotten worse. Since Potter left Brighton, they've improved because they've actually gone out and got coaches who have been a step up. You know, so for me, I don't know. Potter came into a system at Brighton. The system suited him. He just coached, you know, and I don't know if West Ham United have got that system for him. I don't really know whether he would be a success at West Ham. I could be wrong. KJ. Oh, you've done that one. Sorry. Nick, it's an actual insult. He won a European Cup with little old West Ham. Darren, Happy New Year still. Happy New Year to you as well. Hope you enjoy your time at the Neighbours and survive your 20-yard stagger to your home. Happy New Year to you as well, mate. Thank you so much. Happy New Year to you as well, Howard. Thank you so much. Brian, don't think Postecoglou would get the same out of West Ham. We don't have the speed needed for the setup. Good point. I don't know. We got speed. We just don't use it. Jack, I think Potter has a soft chin, which doesn't bode well with Toddy Poe in the side. Marky Boy, still agree with you regarding Potter. Don't think he'd fit in at West Ham. Potter struggled at Brighton for the first 4 months. There you go. I'm done. 2 hours, 17 minutes. If I don't shut up, my voice will go. Look, I will probably be back with another show, but it'll be a pre-recorded one. So let me say a very, very happy new year to all of you. Here's looking forward to a prosperous and successful 2025. We know what West Ham's like. Let's just see what 2025 brings West Ham as well. But have a great one. Enjoy whatever it is you do. Have a great one. Thank you all for commenting. Thank you all for getting involved. Really appreciated. Before you leave, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel, please. And thank you all for watching. Thank you all for contributing. And we'll see you live again in 2025.